Alrighty, that should do her. Michael and Sarah Lloyd.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Of Swift Current Farms.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Me and you talked a little while ago, Michael, about just random mushroom and adventure stuff. And then all of a sudden, you guys posted something. Oh, it was about the new place. And I was like, man, we should talk shop. Because it's something I'm always interested in is mushrooms. And I guess is it mycelium?
Mycelium.
Mycelium, yeah,
Yeah.
right? Because that's kind of I guess I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so mycelium is the start of the mushroom. It's the starting point of the life of the mushroom. So it's basically like baby mushrooms.
Oh, baby.
That's how
that's a good way to put it. That works really good.
Yeah.
Really good for my simple brain.
Well, that's how we kind of instruct it with kids too. This is the start. This is the baby of the mushroom, and then it grows. So yeah.
Yeah. If I ever ask someone to explain something, I'm like, how would you tell a kid? That's
Yeah.
how you should tell me. 'Cause that works really good for my brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of us.
Yeah, totally. Because usually you got to start at the base level, right, for kids and kind of compare it to something, and that's exactly how my brain works. So.
Yeah.
So then I was gonna start by whichever you guys want to go first, but your guys' background, and then we'll kind of talk about the operation here and stuff, and mushroom health and how it helps people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, so I'm Sarah, and this whole dream kind of developed out of my fascination with just nature. And when I was a child, I grew up in Iowa, and we would forage for morel mushrooms. So that kind of was that spark. And then
I didn't know you guys had morels there.
Yeah,
That's
tons. Cool. Every year, you get sick of eating them. There's so many of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my grandfather, who the farm is actually dedicated to, was a farmer back home, and he did hog, soy, and corn, just traditional farm.
Oh, yeah.
So I had really early exposure to agriculture, and carried it through my 20s, and you fast forward, and now I'm a mom, and I'm really trying to get the kids to be interested in it too, because it's a really fascinating world. And
especially getting passed down, right, like you said. Man.
Yeah.
So how many... Would that be a few generations then of farming kind of?
Yeah. So my parents are blue collar all the way. So I grew up around really hardworking individuals, and that's carried through me through my whole life. And it's really nice having a partner that works just as hard as you do. And he's starting to get really passionate about it too. And we have a really good split of duties that when it comes to the farm. So I do the lab work, and then the selling, the people part of it, and then Mike's in between making sure I have enough substrate bags to inoculate and to help keep the tents clean and stuff. So it's a good partnership.
Totally, yeah. That totally makes sense, and that's exactly how Mike kind of put it to me. Was he's like, we're gonna do a podcast, we'd have Sarah on because that's brains the operation. I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. More the merrier for sure.
Yeah, with mushrooms, there's a lot of science behind it.
Yeah.
And she has a science mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I have more of a business and marketing kind of mind.
Yeah.
And so it works really well.
I'd probably lean more towards your kind of mindset. Except for right now. I mean, I'm learning as I go. We were talking earlier about with your guys' business too. So I don't know. I don't know what my brain's gonna turn out to. It's definitely not science, but the business and marketing is kind of coming slow. So I think it'll get there. But
yeah, I think it's important to keep a curious mind. I mean, that's all of our minds are based around curiosity, and I think if you don't let that curiosity kind of pull you in whatever direction in life, and I don't think as humans we're supposed to be kind of corralled into one thing for our whole life, because we grow and develop, and I think it's important and healthy to and
how boring would it be if we're all doing the same thing, we're all engineers or something. Nothing against engineers, but that's just the kind of where my brain goes. If it was more a Brave New World model, we're just all crunching numbers for each other in cubicles, which is fun. That's a fine job, and we need those folks, but man, even those folks probably say it'd be boring if that's all they were surrounded by was those folks all day,
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it.
I don't either. I couldn't. Oh man. Yeah. I told a story before in the podcast, but I originally was going to school to be a physical therapist, and then I got into wildland fire, and I really liked being outside, and then I was still pursuing the degree, but by the time I was able to go on to grad school, which had been the physical therapy program, which I think it was only master's at that point, so I kind of maybe should have done that because now it's a doctorate, but I was like, I could do that, or I could, pursue smoke jumping. So I did that instead. And then COVID hit and my Crohn's was acting up. So I ended up going so I went back to school, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just pursue the PT program. And when I was doing my observation hours, it's all inside, and it was cool because it was kind of rewarding to see these folks who were, recovering from an injury or surgery or something, and work with them and see them weekly, getting better, you know, because you could really see it every week, because that's all I'd be in for like 1 day a week. But towards the end of my observation hours, I was getting pretty restless, and I finally put my finger on it. I was like, I'm not an inside person, you know, like, I'm an outside person. Yeah. So I went back to the Forest Service, and like even like this, you know, I get to go, drove over to you guys' place, and we're somewhat outside, you know, the door's open and we got the fan going, so it's really nice, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people they like to be inside doing their 8 to 5 and go home, and that's not us. And it's really nice that we actually both met each other, because we have the same mindset that way.
Yeah, totally.
Because we have a hard time just living like a lot of people do and just working for the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, man, that working for the weekend's so tough, because your weekends get shorter as you get busier and older, as you guys know. And, oh, man, like I'm even feeling it shrink a little bit, and I've got a little more free schedule right now. It's like, whew. Man, the weekend's about over. It feels like it's only Saturday, but you know, you get that itch, and so I'm kind of working for that freedom too. Are you guys? So you guys are totally with just the mushrooms now, or
no?
Actually, no.
We both work full-time gigs. I work at Clearwater Credit Union as a Universal Associate, and then Mike.
Yeah, I work for. So I'm a marketing manager for a real estate company in Missoula.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I got to give a shout out to Jeremy Williams, because he actually is helping me big time, because he's letting me work from the farm.
Oh, cool.
So most of my stuff I can do on the computer. I do go to Missoula at least once a week to film. We have a YouTube channel that we film once a week and upload. And so
that's how you know about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So are you seeing some holes in my game here? Or?
I got some equipment that maybe you could use.
Oh, really? You got something better?
That he's not using.
Especially by this little mic stand here. Like, it was the smallest mic stand I could get, because like I was telling you guys, I was just going portable. So I got the little zoom, and then these mics were just like super tough, and they had the built-in like pop filter, and they're supposed to like not really pick up the wind, which has been great. I mean, they really haven't picked up much. And then I was like, found these little tiny stands that were super cheap. I was like, perfect, break them down, put them in my backpack, and go. You know?
No, everything here looks great.
Yeah.
But so he's allowing me to work from the farm.
Oh, good,
and
man.
So I'm kind of doing both jobs, because before, when we had the farm back at our house, it was tough.
Oh,
it was tough for her to go to work. I'd drive to Missoula. We'd do the farm in the morning.
At like 4 in the morning then?
Yeah, sometimes as early as 3. I'd get up between 2:30 and 3 and start our sterilization process. So then it was done by the time I had to be at work at 8:30.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
That's a grind. Like,
you
know those motivational videos you see people like getting up and like hitting the gym in the morning? Like, man, if you guys had like a video of that and like some music, that's a motivational video, you know? Like,
and we're doing it while raising 4 kids, you know?
4 kids too? That's awesome.
We kind of describe it to people like having a baby.
Yeah.
She's got the morning shift and I have the night shift.
Yeah.
So when I get home, anywhere between like kind of 5:30ish, then I would start working, and I would go and start a load of substrate, and do whatever, harvest, clean tent, whatever, and then I'd wait for the substrate to get done till anywhere from 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And she's in bed by about 8:30ish.
Yeah, try to get 8 hours or close, right?
Yeah.
So
it works good, but it's for a marriage. It's kind of tough sometimes.
It is,
I bet, and there's no wiggle room or something like that, right? Like, you can't be like, well, I'll clean the tent tomorrow, because like it throws out the whole process, right?
Yeah. And you have to keep a really healthy, sterile, and clean environment for the mushrooms to grow in, because they will let you know if they are unhappy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They start growing just weird.
Yeah, I bet.
And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I think we need more oxygen, or we need to bump up the humidity, or and then if you can also know when the tent needs to be clean, because it gets kind of like that gym locker kind of smell to it, because it's so it's so moist in there.
Yeah, and bacteria and all that. Yeah, just like a running shoe or something, right?
Yeah.
Man, makes sense. And man, I was gonna say, like, I was thinking about someone I was gonna circle this around my brother-in-law with the green thumb, and hopefully it comes back to me, because you guys said something there, and I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Oh, that's what I was thinking about, like being in there, and like especially like your guys is like, I mean, it was a shed, but it was kind of a bigger shed. Your first, was it your guys' very first, or you guys do it in the house first?
Well, actually, our very first attempt So we'll back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So Sarah's always had a fascination with mushrooms and just
Yeah,
like
like
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this originally started clear back in 2010, and it was after in between my kiddos' births that I was like, okay, I need to get back to this ag world. I need to start growing something.
Yeah.
And so I started delving back into it. And in college, I was always really fascinated with mycelium and fungi and that whole kingdom, but then I was like, okay, well, I can pair, be a specialty farm where we do hops and mushrooms. And then my relationship fell apart and I found myself being a single mom.
Oh,
and
that's tough.
yeah. And so the universe knows when and what you need when you need it. So I just was patient and just kind of kept the fire burning with like small gardens that we had and whatnot. And then we moved into, when we met Mike, I was obviously still a single mom.
Yeah.
And then he was like, when we move into a bigger place and we blend our families, then I think you should pursue this and I'll support you.
Cool.
And I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, we move in together, and then we start with one very teeny tent for our lab and one very teeny tent for the fruiting. And it was in the
two small tents.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Those
was
ones
the
we bought.
start of
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. You guys still got them though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we'll forever have them just up as kind of a representation of like where we started,
Yeah,
But
good memory, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially, Jesus, the upgrade. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, and that started in the basement in Missoula,
Oh,
our rental. We had it was a crazy, I don't know how we came across this deal, but it was a really large 5-bedroom home with like 2 living rooms. So
sweet.
the upstairs was strictly the family room and downstairs living room was our farm, basically.
Cool.
And the kids got to, see it, and they started becoming really fascinated with it too. So it was nice to kind of start small, and that was, right after COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And I was actually an audiology assistant at that time too. So,
Oh, wow.
and I was working a lot of hours and researching like how to do this. And then we started with a couple grow kits from Southwest Mushrooms down in Arizona.
Oh, cool.
And then I was like, okay, we can do this. And then we started just kind of building our equipment just slowly and surely. And then with like bonuses and whatnot, just went right back into the farm.
Yeah, whenever you spare money. I know.
Yeah.
Totally. Like, I don't, like that big state tax return that just came back. I'm like, all right, I need to get like an Icy Breeze cooler so it's not so hot in here, like,
yeah,
stuff for the Airstream.
That money goes real fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of funny because when she first brought it to me, I don't have any farming background. Actually, my great-grandparents homesteaded here in Stevensville, and they all had farms and stuff like that, but I was never really around any of that.
Oh, gotcha.
So growing up, we never had a garden. We never had nothing. So I didn't know much about farming, anything. And she brought it to me. She's like, I'd like to grow some specialty mushrooms. I think that'd be a good business to get into. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Because I'd be like, a specialty. I'm like, is it a mushroom? Yeah,
like psilocybin, or what kind of mushrooms are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the special
she brought
ones?
it to me, and I've got such a business mind and background that I was like, okay, we'll see. So I started looking into it because I didn't really want to pursue something that was just going to be a hobby kind of a thing.
And eat money, right?
Yeah. That's
so
I've got the same feeling, so I know.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into it, and I'm like, wow, we might be able to actually make some money in this. And that was in November of 21?
21, yeah.
21.
Yeah.
And so I stewed on it a little bit, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So then for Christmas, I didn't get her any presents. I said, here's $2,000. Let's get this business going.
Oh,
Here's your start.
That's a great present, though.
Yeah. And we
so
sat the kids down, too, and we're like, okay, so... Because we want to expose them to, like, the heartache of failure, and then also the
hard
success.
work.
The hard work, yeah.
And they see it, and they get it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so smart, because they're going to have such a leg up on most kids that are just, and it's not a bad thing, but most kids are just, mowing the lawn or doing whatever chores for allowance, and they're just going along their way, because that's just normal life. But for your kiddos to be exposed to all that, and see the business, the ups and downs, and we got a little bit extra money here, we're going to throw this into this, and this is, and by putting that money into this, like the building or something, it's that's going to, the gains from that, the reward, I guess, is going to be huge, right? The return, that's where I was looking for, return. Yeah.
And so when we, after a few months after that, then we were in the market to buy a house. We knew we wanted to come down to Stevensville. Well, we wanted to go down the Bitterroot.
Get back to your roots.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a special place in my heart for the Bitterroot.
Yeah, it's a special place.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And so we were looking and everything. It's okay, find a house. Our family will fit in it, but we have to make sure that we can actually grow off of this property.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did. We found a little house over by the high school here in Stevensville, and okay, we could put a big shed in the backyard and start going, and so that's what we did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So actually, we put that shed in
before we were fully moved in. Or we
we
were.
Yeah.
So we were living both in for that first month after we closed on the house. We were was trucking back and forth doing repairs on the house and upgrades, and then also living in Missoula and working full
for that
time.
month
So
we renovated it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I got that barn in there.
Yeah.
Got it all wired in, and
man, yeah, in the picture you put online as you're doing it, right? I think weren't you posting them as you're going?
There was a few, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, dang, it was cool to see, because I think you had one transformation where it was just kind of bare bones, and then all of a sudden you had it divided into rooms then, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I don't know nothing about this, but it looks amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot of trial with that too, in the barn, as we call it.
No, it's a good name, because it's bigger than a shed.
It is, yeah. Yep.
And shed's really just your lawnmower and stuff. You guys are actually doing stuff, and more like a barn activity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So we got that, all put in place, wired up, and then built in small rooms and stuff like that for the fruiting room and the lab and all that, and then
winter came.
And the winter came.
Winter came.
Oh, what happened with winter?
It was a tough winter.
Yeah, it was a tough. We went through, I think, 3 or 4 different heating systems in the barn, and the final straw was when we went into our fruiting room, and the ambient temperature, head level, felt great, perfect for mushrooms, but there was ice on the floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
I think you posted that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now I remember seeing that.
And then it's oh, well, this water's pooling over here too. What's going on underneath of this paneling? And then Mike was like, that's it. We're going to fix this.
I ripped it all out, and we got tents.
Yeah.
Enough of this.
Oh, smart, because you get another insulation layer with the tent, right?
Yeah, and the tents are by Gorilla Grow Tents down in California. So they're American made, and they're specifically made for the marijuana industry and then the mushroom industry. So
cool.
They're designed for cultivating any kind of plant or mushroom. So
yes, more specific, for that what trade you guys do. That's awesome, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a local kind too, because then you can probably call up if there's any kind of issues, hey, and get
and
a
they're
hold of somebody.
great. Yeah, they're a great company to.
And that was this winter you guys had it freeze.
Yeah.
What a brutal winter this was.
It was.
It never ended.
It did.
Sucked.
It sucked really bad, and we didn't have any water going to the barn either, so we had to truck and schlep every ounce of water from our house to.
To the
barn.
And from what I've seen, the operation looks like that's a lot of water.
It's yep. And there's a couple of times where it's okay, we just got to be patient.
Yeah, just stepping stones, right?
Yeah, spring's coming.
Yeah, oh man, I had a lot of that, because I was podcasting this all winter, and holy cow, keeping it warm was a task. This thing leaks a lot. You feel cold air just flowing in. I was I don't know what to do here.
Just bump up the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
Especially, we learned not to use a lot of wood.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No
wood. Like the oak stuff you were showing? Or?
Well, I mean, as far as construction, with the barn. So it was all open.
Oh, yeah.
And it was insulated. Part of it was sheetrocked. Our fruiting room, I actually went and put that poly board like you put in bathroom, like shower stalls and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha, yeah.
yeah.
And
Like a
I tried to
plastic
seal
board.
it.
Yeah.
Trying to get that super watertight is tricky.
Oh, I bet.
And her lab was kind of polyboard, kind of wood.
Yeah.
Outside where we incubate was all wood and sheetrock, but wood molds really quick.
fast.
Yeah.
And
really
so
fast.
mold and mushrooms hate each other.
They're
Oh, really?
they're competing organisms, so they like
Oh.
the same things.
Oh, I could see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, they
Yeah.
could kind of grow even similar.
Mhm.
Like, wow.
So if we
Yeah.
have a inoculated block that shows any signs of mold, it goes out the door.
oh,
We
yeah.
don't even give
mess
it a
with
chance.
Yeah.
No. No.
And so
Smart.
Mhm.
having so much moisture, humidity, in the air, on the floor, and trying to keep that away from the wood, it was tough.
It was
Yeah,
really
sounds
tough.
like a challenge, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So-
this has got to be like a breath of fresh
Oh
air
my
in
gosh,
like
the
so many
mushrooms
ways, right?
love it. They're singing in the tents.
Yeah.
They love it.
Oh, from what I could see, and like post those pictures tonight, like man, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
cool, and I mean, like I kind of want to tag on what you guys were kind of hinting at, and you said it more specific, like the universe thing. Like it feels like if you kind of just keep pushing forward and like listen to
Mhm.
what's going on around you, there's almost like some kind of thing that'll like kind of keep pushing in the right direction. Like, and I mean, we were talking just a second ago about the mycelium
Mhm.
being like the biggest organism in the world, right?
Yeah. It interconnects every plant, every organism in some way, shape, or form. So
Yeah.
and we are barely touching on the capabilities of mushrooms through research, and we don't know very much about the fungal world, just like our oceans. We just don't know enough.
Yeah.
And it's really, really exciting when there's like another, like Harvard or the University of Rochester has a really good program for nutrition too, and they come up with a study. I get really jacked and
Oh,
excited,
good.
and it like kind of pushes like, okay, we gotta grow more. Now
Yeah.
we're gonna go back more into the medicinal side. We're gonna add this variety and this variety and this variety. And
So cool.
Mike's really good at
Yeah.
like, okay, that's great. We totally can. Let's just focus right now on getting this going.
Yeah.
He reins me in really well. So
Well-
Yeah, we'll be trying. Okay, we got this and this, and then all of a sudden in the mail we've got 4 new varieties. It's like, whoa,
Oh,
hold
really?
on here.
Yeah, wait a minute, Sarah. what is this?
Like,
That's
let's
awesome.
learn
Yeah.
how to grow these ones,
Yeah.
and then we'll work on
Yeah.
these ones.
Well, I was
Yeah.
impressed with you guys' variety you have right now. Can you go through them again? I can't remember off the top of my head, but more than I thought.
yeah, we
Yeah.
have blue oyster, pink oyster, golden oyster, Florida oyster. We just got it's called Snow White oyster. It's like a really pure white oyster. And
Ooh.
then we have reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane, maitake, shiitake, and golden enoki has been a little finicky, so we might not be continuing to carry it. We don't know yet.
Oh, gotcha.
And then
Chestnuts.
chestnuts, which is starting to become a really popular one,
Oh,
and it's
People are really starting to like
it's
it.
Really?
so
Yeah.
good.
I never had one. I never even
Oh,
heard of it until today.
They're so good.
Really?
They're so good. Yeah, they taste when you like fry them up like your standard saute. They taste a lot like morels,
Oh, really?
but they're not as gummy, spongy, or slimy. They're more of a hardy mushroom. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of
they're
downside to
delicious.
the morel a little bit.
yeah, they can get pretty. Well, any mushroom if you don't cook it at like a higher temperature with a good amount of oil or butter, it's gonna get slimy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then we got lion's mane.
And lion's mane,
yeah.
lion's mane.
That was man, like because I think even one of my classes back in the day was talking about like just one of the health professors was talking about like the old theory of eat something. Or was it if a food looks like something like a carrot kind of like
Yeah.
when you slice through it looks like an eye, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and like an egg kind of looks like an eyeball, and then
Mhm.
lion's mane looking like a brain. But I'd never
Yeah.
seen it in the wild, like
Yeah.
or just in its like natural state until today. And I was like, man, that is a brain for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's a little
yeah.
brain.
Yep.
And then you were telling me it grows like you guys just had the little one, but that's not even full grown, right?
Yeah, no, it'll double in size very, very quickly. And you can start with, you're like, oh, it's the size of a walnut, and then it turns into the size of your hand in a couple of days. It's just a really fascinating like growth
That's
process.
so
and
cool.
And
Every-
there's a couple
yeah.
different strains of it too.
Yeah.
Oh, there are.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the whole species has a lot of different tangents within just lion's mane. So you have like your bear head, and then your traditional lion's mane, and there's quite a few like hybridized varieties too that are coming out that
Oh,
have
wow.
like Yeah, the traditional lion's mane is like, it looks like a mane. It's very like flowy.
Oh.
And then bear's head is like more fluffy because a bear's head is more fluffy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone like I heard making the comparison to like a neuron, you know, like so because there's a rumor that lion's mane can help repair neurons.
Yeah. So all mushrooms have like medicinal properties, but there's more like some of the varieties such as like reishi, lion's mane, turkey tail, your cordyceps varieties. Those have like give your body the nutrients and the chemical and the phytonutrients it needs to actually repair and reconnect neurons that they're finding. And it also can help prevent with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and brain diseases, basically.
Yeah.
So there's a huge study going on, and there was one this last winter that they released their findings that showed not only prevention but reversal of the side effects on the brain from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
That is huge.
So yeah, it's really, really exciting. And then you go into the whole, the brain and gut health connection, and it's wonderful, like the things it can do.
That literally gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like I got them right now. Like
Yeah.
it's amazing,
Yeah.
especially the reversal thing. Because usually, like like just from my history and even like a little bit of my family, like once you kind of got like any kind of like age-related like brain breakdown, like your brain shrinking or it's just Alzheimer's dementia, like you mentioned, like it was kind of like maybe you could stop or help delay it, but it would just keep going. It wasn't and you couldn't go back and repair it. So man, that is super cool.
Yeah,
and it's cool. It's just it's really nice to see that they're looking into it more and more.
Yeah.
And
especially because like it's I'm part Native American, so like a lot of my stuff and same with my wife. So like I think just naturally, and whether the universe talking to us too, but like we've always been drawn to more the medicinal. Like there's something that's already on this earth that can help us, and I mean it's not a fix all. Like if you break your arm or whatever, you cast may need surgery. There's definitely Western medicine purposes, but especially having Crohn's, I'm always like looking for the natural route. And something you said about like the mushrooms working with your body, like a symbiotic thing, like your body's already wired to take that mushroom and use it as fuel to help repair like the myelin sheath, like that is amazing. I never heard it explained that way. Like my thought was like almost like a little worker bee, like you eat this little part of the mushroom and it's like a little worker bee and it kind of goes there on its independent self and fixes it. But it would make more sense if it works for the immune system or whatever kind of network and works in unison to fix it, because otherwise, I mean, it wouldn't work as well, I think, right?
Yeah. If
someone needs to carry it to the damage and then needs to help repair it.
Yeah. And the curious thing with mushrooms too is you have to cook your mushrooms. Never eat raw mushrooms, because the mycelium itself, after it's been fruited, the cell structure, the cell membrane is so tightly bounded to each other that you can't access those nutrients unless you break them down with heat.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. So, and then another trick for mushrooms to make them even more nutrient dense is after you cut them, especially in the winter, sit them in direct sunlight, because mushrooms are the only ones that can convert UV rays into vitamin D that then we can absorb, which is crazy and awesome. Like you just expose them to vitamin D and you get vitamin D that your body can use.
That's amazing.
And that mushrooms are crazy, like connected with us. They breathe the same way we do. Yeah. And they convert sunlight into vitamin D like we do. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, during the winter, everybody should be eating lots of mushrooms. And I mean, especially if you're at high risk for depression or anxiety or anything like that, mushrooms are very good. Just add into your breakfast every morning or
and that way
dinner.
like because I was doing it more in I think it's like Laird Superfoods. He's got like a creamer that you can put in your coffee and it's got like functional mushrooms like reishi, lion's mane, and cordyceps maybe. But man, I never knew what you just said. So what would be ideally is get mushrooms from you guys, take it to your house and cut it first and put it in front of the sunlight?
So you're going to want to cut it up. You want to expose the inner cells to UV. And then even if you have like one of those UV sterilizers that you can just like wave around, that'll help too.
Really?
The fuller the spectrum of UVs, like the sun, the better. But yeah, it'll bump it up. I think they had said it comes out to be like 366 international units of vitamin D in a half a cup of mushrooms.
Whoa.
After it's been exposed to UV lights for like 10 minutes.
Oh, only 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Holy
yeah.
cow.
So like while you're like cooking or cutting up your other ingredients, just sit them on your windowsill and
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you'll get vitamin D.
Dang, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we're recording this because I'm going to have to go back and listen to it myself. And just be like, all right, what's Sarah say again?
Yeah.
All right, cut it up, put it in front of me.
Yeah.
I'll probably listen to it while I cook and probably, just be using you guys. And so, yeah, like for people who want to buy mushrooms like myself, do you guys do orders? You guys have a stand? How does it work?
Yeah, so we are currently at the Clarksburg Market up in Missoula.
Oh, cool.
Every Saturday.
So like this morning you were?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. Well, he was. I was with the
cool.
kiddos, but yeah.
Which is something I'm not as much of a people person as she is.
Yeah.
So I'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when
Put
he
a
has
smile
to.
on, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like I'd rather just be making mushrooms right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I could understand a little bit.
Yeah, and I like to get out and talk to people. I mean, I'm not a licensed nutritionist by any means. I'm just passionate about food and nutrition and the accessibility of good, healthy food. I think it's really important. And then there's that, we all connect over food. We all
Yeah.
connect over eating, and so that's kind of my niche.
Totally.
In the business, so.
Yeah, and you don't have to have, some college degree or something to be able to do research and be an expert in the field.
Yeah,
like
no.
all
Paul
that-
Stamets is a great example.
Yeah.
The dude is never
Oh.
doesn't have a degree holding on his own, and he is the leader, and he gets me so excited because he is so excited about it, and
absolutely.
he's just the most brilliant mind when it comes to the fungal world. So
Yeah, totally. And I think hopefully people are listening to him and just taking some of his tips, because I mean, like, I think he was like the one that really caught me when he was talking about his mentor, who was like became deaf because just age-related breakdown of myelin sheath, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So he couldn't hear anymore, and then he took quite a few of the special mushrooms and psilocybin.
Yeah.
And he, like, the story was he was just hanging on his porch, right?
Yeah.
And didn't have his hearing aids in or anything,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he could hear like the ants or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if it's that powerful, like, why aren't we, why aren't more people, like, getting on board here?
Yeah.
Hopefully the future, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hoping. I think there's a lot of pushback from a lot of the pharmaceutical companies
Yeah.
Yeah.
that don't want natural remedies
Yep.
that they can't make any money on.
I totally agree, because, like, especially I've had Crohn's since 2006, and I've always been, because especially the pharmaceuticals aren't curing me. It's not even really that great of a Band-Aid most of the time. Like, I'll be all right, but I couldn't do my job anymore. Like, I couldn't be a smoke jumper anymore because my Crohn's wouldn't let me. Flare-ups, and diet and sleep. I'm not getting it. So I've been looking for natural remedies the whole time. And I remember, like, initially when I first got into mushrooms was a TED Talk a long time ago, and they were talking about psilocybin and all the benefits, and I was like, why is this illegal? Like, this is amazing. You know?
Especially for the research that are finding it too with, like, vets.
That's what I was just
yeah,
thinking
and PTSD.
Yeah.
It's absolutely infuriating to have such pushback and to have so many big pharma and big money pushing back and saying, no, you can't do this because it's not safe, yada, yada, yada.
Absolutely.
That's a whole nother tangent we could go on. But
I think we're all feeling the pains as humans,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, like, man, just hearing the new news about, like, how many illnesses that have happened since, just like the 80s, with
Oh, absolutely. Our diet is the number one cause for 90% of our ailments. And it can be fixed with food.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, and like, I think when there's like pushback of people being like, oh, that's just like woo woo hippie stuff, it's like, if you really like look around, and I remember my grandma saying this when I was very young, because her neighbor was a Roundup fiend. Like, he sprayed everything, and she'd be like, can you not get so close to our side of the fence, because she had like 5 acres, I think. So she'd be like, just make sure you're pointing it your way, because she's a Native American one, so she's more natural. And sure enough, like, I think when I got in high school, he had like a crazy aggressive cancer and was gone within like months of discovery. And it wasn't like he had sat on it. He had went in for like a weird growth on it, wherever it was, and then they said, it was really aggressive, and they hit with treatment and couldn't stop it. It was like a freight train of, cancer cells that was taking him out. And it's like, and I was pretty young at that point, though. I was like, that guy sprayed a lot of weeds in his day.
Right, yeah.
Like, there's some kind of weird connection there.
Yeah, and cancer, the way it's, kind of ravaging our society. And I've really been going down a lot of rabbit holes when it comes to cancer and research, and the fact it's like we all carry cancer cells in our body all the time. In every form of our body, there's a cancer cell. It's whether it's activated or not, and it's our immune system that actually suppresses it and gets rid of it. So they're finding, like, when these cancers pop up, it's an evolution or a de-evolution of our cells rather than an evolution of our cells.
Oh.
And it used to be the traditional train of thought that these masticizing cells were, foreign body cells, but they're not. There are cells that just kind of go rogue, and then our immune system's like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And then if you give yourself enough nutrients and all those building blocks and the anti-inflammatory type produce like mushrooms and whatnot, it allows your body to heal itself. And you got to give your body time in order to kind of adjust from our standard American diet to more of a healthy, grounded diet.
Yeah.
And we're really big proponents. He hunts a lot.
Yeah.
And feeds our family a lot.
Yeah, I was looking at your hat when I first met you, but I was like sidetracked with the mushrooms. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
and you pair those, those good, healthy, resourceful meats and then, good produce. I mean, you're giving you're setting your body up for success and health. And that's what we're all after.
Absolutely.
And I think what we've been taught
I think
it's not working.
No, I'm with you.
It's not only that, it's also how we get our food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed a lot, and like I said earlier, I wasn't in the farming world. I didn't know anything about it. Once we started our farm here in Stevensville and started to meet some of the local farmers and stuff and start thinking more of it, it's like the local small farmers or even some, good large farmers, but that's where we need to start getting our food from.
Yeah.
It's not the Walmart supercenters, which you don't know what they spray on it. You don't know how they do it.
Yep.
And people rely so much on those grocery stores.
The convenience of it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And things getting shipped in. And now that I've been kind of thrust into this like farming life, you really start to see the benefits of providing for yourself, not relying on people. And like she was saying, I hunt a lot, and so bringing in our own meat and the mushrooms, and hopefully down the road we can start growing our own produce and stuff like that.
That'd
And
be
the
awesome.
chickens,
chickens,
we got chickens and
huge.
ducks. And
Yeah,
that was
ducks, man.
the ducks were an impulse buy. We had ordered 20 chickens, and then I went down to the feed store to get a heat lamp because they were coming the next day. And the kids were like, "Look at these ducks," and I was like, "Oh shit, we're gonna walk out of here with 3 ducks."
Yeah, it looks like they're coming home with us.
And Mike was like, "Oh, when did this happen?" I was like, "Oh, they'll be fine. We get eggs as long as they were unsexed, so we didn't know if we were gonna get male ducks or if we were gonna get all females. Luckily, we got all female ducks."
Oh,
but,
good.
and that's
like the chickens need some friends, and
the
duck eggs are nice.
Yeah, they're delicious.
They are.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that connection back to our. And it's so crazy that we're at this stage in our society where going back to providing for yourself and providing for the community around you is kind of like the new hip thing. It should have been hip and popular all along.
Right?
Yeah. And the Industrial Revolution actually kind of screwed us in a way because it made things really convenient, and a lot of people don't want to work for their food, and I get it.
Totally. Yeah, and the mass farming thing was a bad deal too, because then all the pesticides and everything gets sprayed in, because you can't keep. There's no way you can walk your fields. If you got thousands of acres.
Yep.
So you can't take care of it. So you're gonna lose some yield if you can't spray it. And so I understand that part, but at what cost though to all of us? And our gut health and stuff is really taking a hit.
Yeah, and I'm a celiac, so I can't have wheat at all in any form, and I have arthritic flare-ups when I'm exposed to wheat. He's like, "Did you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I got exposed from something." It could be something as sneaky as in a bouillon packet that has wheat in it that I didn't read the ingredients because I was like, "Oh, it's good,"
Yep.
And then it's like the next day I feel like I got the flu.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have flare-ups that just wreck your day the next day or a week.
It's so hard because if people don't have it or haven't been around somebody who has something like you or me, they're just like, "You look fine." I'm like, "Well, I don't feel fine."
Yeah, I feel like shit.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like garbage right now.
Yeah.
This is as heavy as I can be, with being careful, because it's so hard to add weight on. Because if I even eat a little bit more, sometimes I'll just get too much of whatever, and it's tips the scale to being sick.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Man.
I think with the like what we're talking about, I think COVID really
Yeah.
pushed a lot of this.
Yeah.
I think so
And I
too.
think people are,
Waking up.
kind of saying,
Mhm.
okay, like the supply chain.
Yeah, you go in the grocery store,
Yeah.
things were empty. You're like,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
maybe we should
concerning.
start thinking about providing for ourselves.
Yeah, it's so weird to say positive stuff about COVID, but there's a lot of little silver linings, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and I say it all the time when we're talking about or talking to customers or supporters, as we like to call them, because we don't view any of our people that buy our mushrooms. They're our community and they're our supporters. They're not just customers. You're not just somebody walking up to our stand giving us your money. We want that connection and the connection with the other farms too through our partnership program and whatnot.
Oh, cool. You're our first name basis. It's not just
exactly.
hey, thank you, person.
Here's your invoice number. Please pay it by the 15th.
Yeah.
No. And COVID, I say that repeatedly. COVID, if one good thing came out of COVID, it was that we realized how much interpersonal connections mean and how damaging it was just for that. Because in the grand scheme of things, that separation or that division we had between each other was very short.
Yeah.
It wasn't long.
No.
It was, a year or two, and then we're back to, not
Hugging-
wearing masks and hugging each other and
hanging out in a small Airstream.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I think it was unfortunately the universe's way of again saying, hey, y'all need to wake up because and before that there was a huge disconnection in our nation, leading up to COVID and then the shutdown. There was a lot of unrest, and it kind of made us stop. And kind of, unfortunately, a lot of marriages ended because they realized they didn't really, like each other anymore.
But that's also could be a good thing.
It is a good thing. I think that, we all kind of realized what our importance is, and that's what revved it up for us. It's what? I don't want to have to call into my job and feel bad, because as a mom, I carry mom guilt if I call in or if I stay home with my kids, or if I'm here, there's guilt everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's all laced in guilt.
Yeah.
And,
I get a little bit of it.
Yeah. And I told Mike, I was like, I'm not, we need to change something, because I want to be able to provide for my family and provide for my community. And
and something that you can bring your kids to work, and they can help out and learn something versus going to an office and you can't just have your kid hang out in the office and they're gonna be bored out of their minds. And
a bored kid is a hot mess, man. They are
dangerous.
hard. Yeah.
I know. So I'll get on a meeting and my kid is not very old but she can walk around and stuff. So I'll be typing something back or trying to respond to something, but I got one eye on her and I'm trying to focus on the screen.
Yeah, she's ripping books in her.
Yeah, she's looking at me like.
Are you gonna say something?
Yeah. Just gonna destroy the kitchen real quick.
Yeah.
Get all the pots and pans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think if any good came out of it, I mean, it was a hard time, but that connection is what we need to get back to, and the connection not only to each other but back to the land, the earth, and
totally. Yeah, it was a bit of a blessing having the full shutdown where they didn't want anyone going anywhere. You had to sit in your house, and it was if you were. Hopefully you're doing it healthy. It sounds like we were. A lot of people I know were where you weren't just drinking and being not happy and unproductive. Because I was reevaluating the whole time. Where do I want to be in life? What do I want to do with myself?
It's good inner perspective time for everybody.
I want to add something, and and I lost a few folks in the fire world that I won't ever be able to see again or talk to again. It's man, I wish I would be able to sit down and get their story out there, because they're really interesting stories. It's just man, and that's kind of where I've really started pushing this. Man, I could do something else, but also the independence too, because I could do, I could do this in the evening, when my wife's home with the kids, and then I could edit in the middle of the night. I could get up early and edit this thing, and then I have the day for the kids, which is more important to me, my family, and that interrelationship's more important to me than an office.
Yeah. There's always time to make money, and our kids grow so fast.
And
fast.
Yeah, that's the biggest regret. I can't remember who said it on Rogan. It might have been Jack Carr. He's the author, and he was saying that some advice he got from an older fellow was did you hear this one where he's talking about if you are ever having a hard time with your kid, just pause, close your eyes, and imagine you're an 80-year-old person and how bad you'd want to have just this moment back.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it makes me want to cry right now.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's really important, and it's important for our kids to not only see their parents, I believe, working hard, but also being happy. And if you're not happy with where you're at, you need to change it. So, you can set your kids up. And I think it's really important for kids to see how much grind and hard work it takes to actually make dreams come true.
Totally.
Because when we separate ourselves from, that generation or next generation, and they don't see the struggle, they're not going to realize, like, no, I have to work this hard to get what I want.
Yeah, I gotta put some hours in.
Nothing comes easy. And
that's it. This generation of kids, they've got it pretty easy.
Yeah.
And
comparatively.
Yeah.
And
I told my daughter years ago, I said, and she's 12 now, and I've really been hammering it to her. I said, if you want to get anywhere in life, you're going to have to work.
Yeah.
And you have to work hard.
Yeah.
Because if you do, there's so many kids that I see that aren't working, don't expect to work, don't want to work, they just want everything given to them.
Yeah.
I said, you are going to be so much further ahead than these people, and you're going to be so successful if you just work. And it doesn't matter what you do.
Show up.
Yep.
You just have to give it your all.
Yeah, happier, healthier life, and like you said, it doesn't even matter what it is right now. Even everything's paying more because you can't get anyone to show up. So it's really like the employee really has the kind of the power these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I told her she was like, Dad, I really don't want to go to college. I'm like, well, first of all, you're 12.
that's a big decision for 12 right now.
So maybe start thinking about that when you get to high school.
Yeah.
But you're 12, and I said, honestly, I don't care if you want to go to college or not.
Yeah.
I said, you can. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, something, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
I said, but why waste all that money if you're not going to pursue something that requires a college degree? I said, for one, there's so much information out in this world that you don't need to go to college.
Yeah.
There is.
And I said, I don't care if you don't go to college, but whatever you do, just work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Just jump in, work hard, see if it's something that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If not, maybe change or whatever, but always work hard.
Totally, yeah. And to tie on that a little bit is what I kind of learned, and maybe I was taught this too by my dad, but like, give it a minute too. Like, some jobs just suck in the beginning because you don't know what you're doing, so it's like stressful. But then like, you give it at least a couple months and get your feet wet with it and be like, all right, it's starting to grow on me a little bit, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to get worse. And you're like, I want to do something different, you know?
Yeah, you always think that, this would be fun to do for a career, and then you get into it, it's like, maybe it's not quite so fun.
Yeah, there's a couple different aspects to this position. Yeah, I've definitely been there.
And being young, she can bounce around a little bit or whatever, try to find what really motivates her and pushes her.
Yeah, especially an open mind. You
know? And I think it's about having fulfillment. Like, there's some people that get very fulfilled with their day to day, like just showing up and punching in and clocking out and going home, and that's fulfilling for them. And there's the whole judgment of like, well, you have to have a super awesome career and you got to be making something for you. Yeah, you have to support yourself, but if you're not fulfilled as a person, then why are you doing it? Life is so short, man. We don't need to be like pigeoned into one thing for the rest of your life. And I think that's kind of where our society has kind of gone wrong.
Totally.
Where it's like you go to college, you figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And then by the time you get, 35 like I am, heck, I've been through like 4 different careers and now I've just found my passion.
Yeah.
And you got to give yourself grace for that. And you're through your failures, you're not failing. You're just learning about yourself and learning what you like and learning your passions.
Totally. And it's gonna help in the future. It doesn't seem like right away, but all that experience is gonna pay off. Yeah. And that's a good point to say, like 35, I'm 37, and I just started this a year ago. So it's like, you're never too late to try something new, but back in the day, like our parents' generation would be like, what are you doing? You're like 37, you got kids, you need to be grinding,
Yeah,
my dad's still kind of that way because I've started and helped start a lot of different businesses.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of had a job on the side.
Yeah.
And like with the mushrooms and stuff, he thinks it's cool, but I said, okay, we're releasing this big building and blah, blah, and we're going to be doing it, full time and this and that. And he's like, well, boy, just be careful.
Yeah.
Don't just quit your job. And it's always, and I understand because it's back in the day. You got your job and you stay with your job and you do this.
You get your retirement, you work until you're 65 and then you live off your pension and then, you hopefully have a family to like live your life out with. But that's not that's not how things are supposed to be.
No,
you need to be happy, and you need to be centered, and I think giving yourself grace in order to do that. Like, just because a business fails doesn't mean that you're a failure.
Yeah,
you know.
Good point.
So that's him and I have definitely that, like, I don't want to say entrepreneurial, because everybody's an entrepreneurial like a spirit still. Now.
Yeah.
But we're workaholics, I guess, in a way. We just constantly, and it might be my ADHD that I have, I can't sit down. I can never relax fully.
Yeah. No,
like ever.
Yeah.
And,
ever.
No, and I'm kind of hyper in a way, but I think I utilize it, and I don't, I don't like medications. I don't like the way they make me feel. I tried them for like a week, and I was like, yep, this isn't working. I feel like a zombie. I don't feel good. And that was in my 20s. And then I was like, okay, there's something else. Like, I just got to channel it. I got to figure out how to use it to my advantage, when manic states come in and I need like 3 hours of sleep. Great. That's great. I could get a lot more done.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Well, that's what, like, I mean, it seems like that's been more of a topic lately. It's just like like my little brother, and I was kind of hyper too as a kid, and they definitely want to medicate my little brother, and like now everyone's like talking like, well, you're putting this young person into a school atmosphere that they would rather be doing a million other things, and you're trying to get them to learn this whatever in this book, or like even just the ABCs of the math tables and stuff. It's like they're in third grade, and you're trying to get them to learn their timetables when they'd rather be outside chasing each other with sticks.
And I think that's the whole. We, as humans, we are not meant to stand in one place for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And especially kids, they are not meant to sit in one spot for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Their bodies are, their metabolisms, I mean, if you want to break it down to like a science level, their metabolisms are so on fire, right?
Yeah.
And that energy has to go somewhere. And it's going to be through not being able to sit and twitching and moving and
acting out a little bit, right?
And kids act out we act out when we get bored.
Oh yeah, same.
So it's
like I need a snack and I need something to do.
And maybe a nap.
Maybe a nap. Yeah, exactly. All those important things,
Yeah.
Like a triangle.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I think I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for our society yet, but I think getting back to like good nutrition that's locally sourced and is coming from a community that we all contribute to is gonna, and then we pass that down to the next generation. And
then you're kind of going back in time to me, because my brain like instantly goes to these small communities that had like little stores on the corner that like bread only lasted for a few days, so like and milk too. So you went and got your milk and eggs and everything every few days. You only got a little bit of it because that's all you needed, and then you get more when you either ate it or it went bad, which most time it didn't go bad. You get to it before, and then. Like our kids can go and be like, why don't you go over and help whoever, with their farm or dairy or whatever they're doing, like go check it out, see if you like that, especially in a tight community. That's we're really lucky here in the Bitterroot. It's a pretty small valley and pretty close connected, closely connected.
Yeah, and it's growing too. It's growing way faster than I think. Just in the year we've been down here, it's like, whoa. And I come from a really small town in Iowa, a little farming community in Belle Plaine. Yeah. And so...
A lot of corn?
Yeah, a lot of corn. A lot of corn. Just a sea of green. And it's wonderful to visit for a couple of days. It's not my soul.
No,
There's no mountains.
There's not. Yeah, exactly. And... But coming from that kind of agricultural business, we did have a really tight community. My dad was the assistant chief of the fire department, so everybody knew, and my family is huge.
Oh, really?
So everybody knew us. Everybody was very supportive. If somebody was sick or there was a death in the family, you'd have my grandma would take over pies to people that recently had somebody pass, or bring over a lasagna, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the disconnect or what generational disconnect, where it came and started, but we need to get back to that.
Totally agree.
And, the whole food thing and having access to like fresh food and like how pasteurization has screwed our bodies so much.
Killing off all the good stuff, right?
You can drink milk. Most of us can drink milk, but we're sensitive to that pasteurization because it kills everything.
Yep.
And our guts need a wide range of, healthy bacteria, and and we killed it off. So now we're putting a plastic jug that sits on a shelf and is good for almost a month. There's something wrong there.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard it referred to as dead milk.
It is dead milk. Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. And then, they went a little deeper up, about it. And I was like, whoa, like that dead milk thing really struck me. I was like, wow, especially having gut issues. I was like, maybe that's what's part of what's going on with me,
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to get fresh milk, and then my body doesn't like it as much, so I'm trying to like do it in small doses.
Yeah. And you've got to kind of build on the bacteria, and Mike and I just started delving back into the world of fasting, and that's where all this is like coming from, because they're talking about how if you're going through a fasting period, you're giving your body that kind of break from food and allowing your body to heal itself, because your body can heal itself given just what it has. But there's a detox period. Okay, why do we need such a longer detox period? Because back, Jesus used to fast all the time before he knew, because he knew what was coming, right? Or these other spiritual leaders, they knew that their destiny was kind of laid out. They knew where it was going to end. And so they prepared their bodies for that kind of journey through fasting.
Oh, makes sense.
And then when they come back from a challenge, they would reintroduce all those good, bacteria in your microbiome in your stomach. And that's where we need to get back to.
Yeah.
And that's only through locally sourced food, because you can't trust an apple nowadays because it's last season's apples and they've been sprayed with so many chemicals, and it sucks because we're only limited to what we can get to us or to ourselves, right? So that raw milk, the fresh produce, you can't get it if it's not there. So I mean, we still chug a lot of like just whole straight out of the plastic gallon, jug. Milk, but that's all we can get down here. Unless and if somebody's listening that's a raw milk producer, we will buy it because it's so good for your gut. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a gal, I wish I could name drop her, because my sister-in-law uses her, but she's here in Stevensville.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Man, I'll have to look it up. I think we're friends on Instagram. Something farm, of course, but like Full Bloom, full. Oh, God. Dang, I'm blanking out. But anyways, so I might have a number for you.
Yeah,
it's cool, pretty cool program.
Yeah. So and then like just raw nuts, raw food in general.
Yeah.
Grant, when you cook mushrooms too, to bring it back to our specialty, mushrooms are best when they're cooked. Not only because there's also like some phytochemicals that are existent until you cook them off. But the really unique thing about mushrooms is the longer and slower you cook them, the more nutrient dense they become. And the reason why they're so nutrient dense is because our bodies are able to process them.
Oh, gotcha.
So you really have
backwards.
It is backwards, because you think like all of these, these phytonutrients are like heat kind of touchy, like you can't overheat them.
Like
but
garlic.
They're so tightly bounded that they need that heat
to release.
To release. And it's just a fascinating thing that like mushrooms need to be cooked, but you shouldn't cook your asparagus for very long because they're healthier. And I think the more education we get toward nutrition and food and how to prepare that food for our bodies to get it, that's where it needs to start. And then we need to feed our families, and then we need to feed our community.
Yeah, and like you said, you start at that ground floor at the base, and then we're raising healthier humans who are going to think clearer and make better decisions, and the whole world gets a little better, And even like you were talking earlier about like, your 12-year-old daughter talking about college and having that talk. It's good that she's having it early, but also that you're not like, no, you're going to college, because I felt like that was kind of like our generation, because
absolutely.
Like my dad was in the trades, and like it seems like generational trade workers, so it's like go to college, don't beat your body up being a carpenter like my dad was. So there's a big push in that sense. And now it's like, well, you do something else, you don't have to go to school. You know, like
my parents never pushed me because they knew it wasn't even an option.
Wasn't in the cards.
They knew long before it was even that I was even at that age. They're like, he's not much into college.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad I went, but I'm not using my degree, so.
Yeah. I've kind of come full circle. I have a biology background, but I never fully graduated and never fully committed to anything. But again, I think that's that self-discovery thing. You got to give yourself grace.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I was kind of thinking about that, like you said earlier about the failure thing. You know, like even though I got the degree that I'm not using, there was still some knowledge that I gained along the way. And I mean, we were even talking about microbiology. You know, that was part of my undergrad. And man, I mean, that was so interesting with the Petri dish.
Yeah.
Like, what'd you say? Like, well, Petri dish is like.
Oh yeah, so the way we start, we used to do Petri dishes, which gives a 1 to 2 dimensional growth plate for mycelium to start its growth, and then through just the evolution of growing, these producers found that liquid-based culture of like potato starches, and there's a couple of the agar starches and stuff you can use. It'll actually make a 4 to 5D growing medium. So then the mycelium is more in a natural state, because mycelium, penetrates in all directions.
Yeah,
and I say 5-dimensional because there are some out there that think that they intuitively go into the 5th dimension.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even if they aren't psychedelics, like they have an intuition about them that through their growth, and it's crazy because every mycelium adapts to its environment a little differently. So the mycelium that you get down in Arizona is not going to be the same mycelium through generation of the mycelium up here. They just kind of adapt to the culture and the environment. And that's the thing that's the most fascinating is, we went from growing in a very flat surface to now having a liquid culture that we can extract mycelium from that is more viable, more healthy, more sustainable, and it grows faster.
Yeah.
Like we can do a jar in, a couple weeks and have it ready to, inoculate, 50 to 60 grain spawn bags.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
Because we use a syringe to suck out the
Oh.
mycelium.
Yeah, a sterile syringe.
What you guys were showing me in the jar then?
Yeah. So
gotcha.
there's a self-healing port on the top, and then there's also another filtration system that you put on the top so they can exchange the CO2 because they're still off-gassing.
Oh, gotcha.
And you can, if you don't do it right, you can explode your jars.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. The bomb go off.
Yeah. And then, they're also not healthy. And so they need that oxygen coming in. And the liquid medium, then we can take and we inoculate Montana grown wheat, and then we put
local,
that.
hey.
Yeah.
That's
We
awesome.
try to resource as much as we can locally, but some stuff you just can't, like our plastic bags and stuff. Which, man,
that's cool. And like, I think the thing too with that we're learning through like, especially Paul Stamets, and I can't remember if it was him, but like talking about the communication that mycelium has,
it's
the electrical,
insane.
yeah.
And I bet back in the day, people just dismiss that, like, no, it's just a mushroom.
It's woo-woo.
Yeah, it's woo-woo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of communication going through the mycelium network.
Yeah. And the mycelium network will allow trees to talk to each other. So if, like, a nest of carpenter ants takes over a tree, through the mycelium network, the one tree will talk to another tree through that mycelium network.
Whoa.
And then they're also finding the root systems of trees are not downward like we thought. They're more outward, like the mycelium network itself, because the mycelium network is stretching. It's long stretching. It goes from a single point and it stretches out like a spider web. And it just keeps going and going and going. And just like with our grain spawn, if we had an infinite amount, we could stretch it, from here to the moon with one mycelium network.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's cool looking in the bag too when you can see like one of our grain spawn and how it starts to kind of crawl
explode out.
Yeah, it's cool. You can see all the little fingers and stuff
Whoa.
going
Yeah.
all over.
Is it kind of like probing as it goes and finding resistance and stuff, or not resistance, right?
Yeah, and it's really awesome to see if like the mycelium as it's growing through the substrate bag, if it comes in touch with any kind of contamination, it will actually develop a circle around that contamination, and then you won't get any kind of mycelium growth. And any kind of contamination could be bacterial, it could be another fungus, it could be viral, it could be anything, and the mycelium will actually like contain it. Yeah. It's
That's
crazy.
cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
Man, so smart.
We've had a few bags that we've seen some mold. And we're like, let's just hang on to it just to watch
just
this.
to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
Man, the stuff you guys are doing is incredible. Like, even just being in there, I was like, whoa, I knew it was an upgrade from what you guys had with the barn, but man, I mean, this is huge and so important. I was going to say that earlier, like you guys, the universe or whatever is talking to you guys about like making this happen. It seemed like I wasn't really thinking about it until, we became friends on Instagram, and I was like, that's a great idea. I mean, why isn't there, like, I'm surprised I didn't think about that there wasn't a mushroom, a place to get mushrooms before, like a mushroom farm, until, all of a sudden Swift Current Farm, right? Like your guys, that comes along. I'm like, yeah, this is important. I'm glad these guys are here.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple other growers within the state that are doing great work too, like Mother
cool.
Fungi up in Missoula.
What a great name.
Yeah. And he's got some great produce and mushrooms too that he's growing, and
cool.
he is now stretching out into Chicago, which is
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
awesome.
There's some growers, and there's like the little mom and pop growers too, where that are just doing it as hobby, and then you have the mycelium clubs of Montana and whatnot.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's more and more people getting into it too.
That's
like
cool.
the
And
I
farmers
think
market, we've talked to a lot of people that, and it's kind of funny. They're like, yeah, I tried to grow some mushrooms, but I kept getting contaminated.
And then I get discouraged, and it is.
Yeah.
We've sunk a lot of money into contamination,
Yeah,
and time too, and frustration, and we've literally had blood, sweat, and tears over, like, why isn't this working? Like, and then we have to like just stop and start over with some of our mycelium cultures, and then
there's been a lot of frustrating moments,
like
you saw our racks with our inoculating blocks.
Yeah.
There's been times in our old barn that we'd look at them in the morning and everything looks great.
Beautiful,
we'd go back up there, there'd be a whole rack full of mold.
Yeah, what happened?
And you just grab them and you throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we got to start again. Then you got to find the mold. How did it get in there? Did it not get sterilized long enough? Did the grain not get sterilized? Is there any contamination in the liquid culture?
Oh, yeah.
Is it my processes? Because mold and fungal spores are all over us all the time.
Yeah.
And the golden rule about the lab is you don't go into the lab to do any kind of work unless you are clean, showered, and in as clean a state as you can be in. But
go through a lot of alcohol.
A lot of rubbing alcohol.
I bet,
but
I just came from the hot spring today. Did I contaminate you guys?
I
was just in there.
No, yeah, and that's the thing is like, and there's only so much separation you can do, and then it's just like making sure your processes are clean and sterile, and that's the big part is making sure you just have a good procedural, like, in and out.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah, and then probably getting like I said, like clockwwork, like checklist, like everything's the same, and then just like any kind of experiment, right? Like just make sure you got all your things and stick to the plan or whatever. There's a better word for it. I'm blanking
out. SOPs.
We use it in forces. Standard operating procedures. Oh yeah. Procedure was actually what I was looking for. But that makes sense, and and then go by it and. Then nothing goes wrong, but if something does, then you got like this whole process, and you're like, all right, where could it have snuck in?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that kind of goes back to like some of my old history. So I worked for 23 years at Roseburg Forest Products in Missoula.
Oh, really?
Particle board plant.
Yeah. It's big plant.
Yeah. And I worked from cleanup all the way up to I was a lab technician.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a lot of the processes that if something would go wrong, I'd go and try to help figure out and see at what point something went henshit.
Yeah.
And that mentality for me has helped a lot with this farm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of processes and stuff that
problem solving.
Trying to problem solving, trying to be efficient, trying to figure out, keep things isolated, trying to figure out, okay, did this counteract this kind of a thing?
Man, it's crazy. Like, just like because like the universe talk you were talking about before. It's weird how all your guys' experience kind of like are culminating into this.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And even if this is in your final, if you guys move on to something else, like you still got a ton of experience to put in whatever maybe next. But it feels like this might be it. But whatever you guys get into. You guys seem like kind of. You guys are down for anything.
Yeah.
And it's worked awesome. As you can tell, talking science with Sarah, I didn't really butt in a whole lot because I don't know jack really about the science much.
Oh, I was hanging on by a thread with most of it. I was like, it sounds interesting. And trying to get in there.
As far as processes, like I said, trying to be efficient, and then with my business background and marketing and stuff like that.
You guys really complement each
other.
It works really well together.
Yeah, because I am, and I know it. I am not good about hounding down money or really. I would give free mushrooms to everybody on the street corner if I could, you know. And Mike's like, no, man, we got a family to support.
It's a business.
Okay, did you get that invoice done? And so.
Yeah, because if you don't stick to the business part, then you guys aren't going to have as good a product and stuff because you guys won't be able to afford to keep it rolling. If I was just picturing you on like a parade, just be like, mushrooms for you. Like on a float.
And you get some mushrooms.
Here's some health for you.
Yeah.
Healthy.
What kind of ailment do you have?
Yeah, we wish we could, but we got bills to pay.
Yeah, totally, man. And I think, the way you guys are going at it too, like maybe someday you guys will get to a big point where you'd be like, hey, you guys can do a little small something for yourselves, if you guys want to work on something, I mean, I don't know. It seems like such a process. This would be a hard, like home grow kind of, thing to do. So I'm just going to rely on you guys. I'm not going to go rogue and try to do my thing.
Yeah, there are a lot of hobbyists that they just want to stay hobbyists because any scaling up you do, you're going to have contamination. You're going to have frustration. You're going to have blocks that fruit way faster than others. And then you're sitting on 12 pounds and you got to find food for it. Otherwise, it's just wasted.
Oh, geez.
So there's a really fine balance. And that's with any farming and any kind of food production. You got to have somebody to give it to in order for it, before it goes bad.
There's also that point where it's like, okay, and like how we started, we knew right away we wanted to make a business out of it. But there's a point where, okay, we're making a few bucks, kind of, it's paying for itself. Well, then you really have to upgrade to actually make a business out of it.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
your
why
full-time gigs.
And we sat down and like I said before, I've started and ran other businesses, and I've always taken the approach that I don't want to get too big too fast.
Smart.
Yeah, I want to stay slow, let it grow, don't push. It's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And we were kind of doing that with the barn until we were sitting there, and so many people would like, oh, I want this many pounds of mushrooms and that many pounds of mushrooms. Like, we can't produce that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we just sat down one day, and it's like, okay, it's time. We have to do something.
When you get like that, the probably the amount of like need out there
to
satisfy
and there was a great need.
Yeah.
And we were, like I said, it was paying for itself, but it's like, okay, we're either gonna jump, or frankly, I was kind of thinking not really to quit, but just to kind of back off a little bit if we're not
kind of stay hobby.
Yeah, because. Like we were saying before, we work this 7 days a week, basically from about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 at night, 7 days a week.
Yeah, it's your guys' new child, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I really don't want to do that as a hobby, just if it's going to pay itself. I don't really want to do that. So it's like, okay, we have to either scale back so we have some time for ourselves to enjoy life, or we have to ramp this up.
Yeah.
It's kind of we're kind of done just going slow.
Yeah.
It's like it's time to go now.
Yeah.
So then that's when luckily we
this
found
place
this place.
was a huge blessing. It literally fell in our lap, and Mike, I was hee-hawing around like, I'm not ready. And Mike's like, well, just go look at it. Once you look at it, you'll know. And we came in that first time, and I was like, oh, yep.
Yeah.
This is our new, as long as we can get this place, this is going to be it. Because it's laid out perfectly for us.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I literally know what you guys have told me about mushrooms today is pretty much all I know. And but just seeing, like, you guys take me through all the stages is like, this is so perfect. It was like it was like made for you guys.
Yeah.
And it was really neat, too, because when I first looked at it, the building wasn't finished.
Yeah.
And so talking with the owner went through, and I told him, what we'd need to do. And he's like, okay. And then went through once, talked to him, looked at it. I'm like, oh, this might work out really well. And then I got Sarah, and then I got a set of keys, and I showed her. And then her and I both went with the owner and walked through it. And
Darren was great.
We need water in the back. It didn't have it. He's like, oh, I can put water back there. Awesome. I'm like, oh, we need an exhaust port from our tents because we have to exhaust the CO2 and the spores out of the tents.
Yeah.
So that the tube system out, that's the exhaust system.
Yeah.
So we need an exhaust, and we also need an intake, to replace that air.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, oh, well, I'll do that.
He's just punched 2 big
Yeah.
holes in his building for us.
No big deal.
Yeah, and he's
What a
like-
No big
guy.
deal, man.
Yeah, what a guy.
And
That's
he
awesome.
goes,
Yeah.
so the front's got heat and AC, but the back doesn't have anything. And I'm like, oh, well, we need, a certain temperature. He's like, well, I can put a heater back here if you want. I'm like, well, that'll work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
everything we
great.
needed is like, oh, I'll do it. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And then he's, you want it? We're like, yep, we do.
And then
So
I
it's
yeah,
like,
and
it's
I was
yours.
signing a lease a couple of weeks later.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So-
it was phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. I mean, like, meant to be. Like, we're kind of saying the whole
Yeah.
time here. Like, I talked to my buddy who owns, I think he co-owns still. Can't remember if he's sole owner, but he co-owns Buck and Dave's Eggs.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
just down here in Corvallis.
Corvallis, yeah.
And he was on the podcast a while ago. And we were talking about stuff like you guys are experiencing pretty much right now of, like, just, like, getting the trailer and getting, like, all these things in my little business. And it's, like, that's when you know you're on the right path. It's when
Yeah.
things are just, like, working out. Like,
Yeah.
there's going to be some struggle still, but, like,
Oh, yeah.
things, like, happen when they're meant to happen, and then you
Mhm.
just use that stepping stone, keep cruising,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I come from the philosophy where I don't love to struggle,
Yeah,
but
me
you
either.
need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need it. And there's been times where I've told her, it's like, things are working too good right now.
Something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I
it's
know.
gonna
No,
happen.
no, everything's
Or-
fine.
Because I don't want to get in
everything's
that mentality where, oh shit, this is easy.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
going to breeze through it, because you need the struggle to kind of sit you on your butt a little bit and kind of, okay,
Humble you.
slow
Humble,
down.
Yeah.
Because it's
And
easy to
then
get
also-
spoiled, right?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with our old barn, with all that mold and contamination, we learned a lot,
Yeah.
and then bringing it here, getting everything really dialed in, we're learning more.
Yeah.
And you need the struggles. You need to figure out what's working, what's not working, and use those to your benefit.
Yeah, because then you got such a big foundation, right? Like,
Yeah.
everything's squared away.
Yeah.
Your product's excellent. Your process is amazing. Everything's good. So then, like, if, when you guys do even, like, ramp up even bigger, it's already there. The groundwork's done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like you kind of said before, like, fast growth it never seems to work any time, really. Like,
No.
like, you boom up and, you get super successful. It doesn't seem to last. But if you, like, slow, like you said, like, kind of a slow simmer to success.
Yeah.
I've been hearing that kind of more lately, and I always got to remind myself
Mhm.
too, like, take it easy. Like, you're
Yeah.
getting better at hosting, and you're
Yeah.
improving the podcast, and the just the trailer itself too, and
Adorable.
guests, and yeah.
Yeah, the thing I've learned, excuse me, the thing I've learned with the other business is, and especially with this one, because there's been times that we thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if we want to do this.
Yeah.
It's going to go if you don't give up, and you just have to let it grow. It's like a child.
Mm-hmm.
You just work it, you feed it, it's going to grow. But also don't miss opportunity. Keep your mind and keep your mind open for opportunities.
Yeah.
But it's going to go. You just have to work it, and you can't put a time limit.
Yeah.
You just have to let it go.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's like I needed to hear that, and you knew it. I felt like
Yeah,
you
right.
right
Yeah.
to me.
I mean, it's not bad to have goals
Totally.
by any
Yeah.
means, but to put, when people sit down and they're like, oh, my 1 year goal, my 3 year goal, my 5, my 10, my 20, it ain't gonna work like you think it's gonna.
No.
It ain't
Yeah.
gonna go the way you think it's gonna go, and you're gonna get pushed on your ass a couple times, and then you're gonna get like lifted up and encouraged, and
I think a lot of
Totally.
people
Yeah.
too don't know how to actually, when they set goals, they don't know how to achieve them, or they don't know
Oh.
how to go towards a goal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I look at things a lot different. Like with goals, I always kind of reverse engineer them. Like if you have a goal, okay, I want to produce, this many, say, blocks, this many, inoculated blocks, or we want to bring in this much money into the farm, or whatever. You
Yeah.
always have to kind of reverse engineer.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, in order to do that, what do we have to do? Okay, in order to do that, then what do we have to do? Just, step it back all the way to the beginning.
Yeah.
A lot of people set goals and they don't know how
What it
to
takes.
they don't know what it takes or how to achieve
Yeah,
them.
how to get
They
there,
just
right?
wanna,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
be this in a year, and that's all they say, and
Awesome.
they don't know how to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You had a lot of good points there, and especially like like the kid or dog or whatever you're raising, like you give it all the things it needs, and
Yeah.
then but be open for and ready for new things to come along.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
your guys' place here, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
even the opportunity to have you guys on my podcast, like that. It was just kind of like Instagram worked out in its weird magical ways where it's like you guys had this place. I got
Yeah.
in contact with you. I was like, man, we should definitely like sit down and talk. So I want to know more
Yeah.
about you guys, and I want to help promote this because I think
Yeah.
it's important. You know, like health. You know, and
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
such a big part of
Yeah.
helping me. I mean, kind of selfish in the way because I'm like, man, got a good place to get mushrooms, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you know where we're at.
Yeah.
Grab some.
yeah,
And there's-
totally.
Yeah, that's a whole nother like gamma of the business that because I'm really focused on growing fresh, delicious mushrooms, but
Yeah.
the supplement side and the medical and medicinal side of things, that's where my head goes for our goals.
Yeah.
Is because I want to help people heal their guts and heal their minds and their bodies through mushrooms, and not just mushrooms, but pairing them with other local produce and producers.
Totally, yeah.
Because I think it's really, really important, and supporting without jealousy or bias. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and it's really hard as humans to do that when you see a farm really succeeding and you're like throwing your head against the wall trying to figure out why you're not succeeding. I think that's a huge growth opportunity in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something we've struggled with, is like, well, homeboy down south is doing great. Why can't we do this good? And it's like, oh, well, he's also been doing this for 15 years.
Totally, yeah. It's so easy to
know?
kind of overlook those
Yeah.
details, and especially like if they have something similar that you
Yeah.
have, you're like,
Yeah.
man, we're doing the same thing. Why is it, know?
Yeah.
But like you said, the time, then you're like, oh, the time and whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it's Rogan, for sure. Rogan says this, and a few other people, like, there's enough pie for everybody, or something he says.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
there is enough pie. And there's,
Yeah.
if 3 or 4 more growers in the state of Montana or even the state of mushrooms want to pursue it, there's plenty of room for all of us. Like,
Absolutely.
and Mike and I are just like, I think since we're not really like capital driven by any means, like we're not big like items people. If you
Yeah.
walk into our house, you're like, wow, these people like live pretty basic, minimal, like
Yeah,
aside
same.
from the
Yeah.
kids, crap all over the place.
Yeah.
But like we don't have a lot of big
We're not
things.
materialistic.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Just it's not I've never been that way, and I never see myself being that way.
No.
And so the whole idea of like, taking over the whole state and it's all
Yeah.
ours, and the
Yeah.
the earth is ours. That's not
You're the
like
king and queen of mushrooms.
yeah,
in the
yeah,
whole world,
no, man, that's not our
No.
goal. Our goal is to help people through food and rebuild our communities through food. So that's kind of where we're at.
And then
with
getting
it.
financial freedom on top of it, financial independence on top of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
makes it better for the whole community, really, because then you guys focus more on this and
Yeah.
and your own free time to have your mental health,
yeah,
like in check.
absolutely.
So,
Mhm.
Especially getting out of Missoula.
yo,
Really
Yeah.
help that mental health.
I bet. Holy cow, I
Missoula's
can
a
imagine.
great place for when you're in your 20s. Like
I
I
was gonna
thoroughly
say.
enjoyed my 20s in
Yeah.
Missoula, but once it's just that
You hit that age, you're like,
Yeah.
I want something more quiet, slow paced.
and especially if you grew up in a small town, that
Yeah.
it gets in you, and it's really hard to get it out of you.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
I was always teasing my wife for going back to Whitehall, and she's like, I don't think I can do it. It's just where my parents live is a wind tunnel, and I get it, but I just tease her about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm definitely drawn to the smaller communities. Because you kind of mentioned something earlier about with your community, like your grandpa was a fire chief, right?
No, my dad was a fire
dad was-
chief.
yeah.
Yeah. My grandpa was a farmer.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
And just a conventional hog. I have very fond memories of going out and messing with the hogs and kind of getting into trouble a little bit.
Oh, I bet.
You
But you
and
got get the freedom to do it though, right? On the farm.
Yeah, and like hiding in the cornfields and walking out. There's nothing like walking out, and I still raw corn isn't for everybody, but going out to the field and just busting off an ear of corn and eating it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
just
so
right
fresh
straight
and-
off the plant. But
yeah, and growing up on it,
Yeah.
and that one like Whitehall too was like that kind of small community. I mean, there was like 1,400 people or something in town.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably off on this. Maybe it's 3,000. I don't know, but it was really
Yeah.
small, and
Yeah.
we were Class B, and there's only 200 kids in my whole high school, and maybe a little smaller by the time we graduated because the mine was shutting down. So
oh yeah.
that was like the bigger, I don't know, business in town. I guess was
Yeah.
the gold mine. But it was funny because it was pre-cell phone when I was in high school. I mean, there was a few of them, but they were really bad in Whitehall. Like, it didn't matter what service. Like, there was just not much service in there,
that's
you
how it
know?
was though.
Yeah, so, like, I get home, and my dad would be like, oh, you're up bone basing today, huh? I'm like, how in the hell did you know I was up bone basing?
Right?
You
Yeah.
know, I'm
Right.
but
Small town,
yeah,
man.
some neighbor saw my blazer and was calling and was like, hey, you were kids in bone basing right now? Or South Bowl or wherever I might have like wandered off to. And he's like, so I get home, my dad be waiting. He'd just grill me a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
how does this guy know everything?
Yeah, I
But
know.
Like you said, small town. Everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody. And I
Yeah.
think that that's, again, the connection that you can't get from even the town the size of Missoula. Missoula is
Yeah.
like such a like small big town,
It
like
really
or
is.
small city big town type feeling, and it's getting bigger, but unfortunately I think it's kind of losing that connection, like just because of accessibility and convenience and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we see it at the farmers market. There's a lot more tourists coming into town, which is great for the local economy. It's
Totally.
fantastic. But when you're selling fresh produce and people need to cook it, they need to have some place to cook it.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I didn't think
So
about that.
they don't come to the stand and grab, like they might grab.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people. Oh, we're traveling. Gosh,
Oh
they look
gosh, I wish I could
beautiful.
take
We
some
love 'em,
home.
but
Yeah.
How do they fly?
Yeah.
We've had a couple
Oh.
people
Yeah, I
like
had-
take them halfway across the country on an airplane.
Really?
And I was
Yeah,
like, well,
some
just let us
gal-
know how they fare. 'Cause we
Yeah.
don't know how they ship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One gal she bought from us, and she was she was flying later that day. She's like,
Like Georgia or Tennessee
Yeah.
or
Oh,
somewhere.
wow.
Yeah.
they'll be fine if they just sit on my lap, won't they?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you can do whatever you want with
Yeah,
them.
it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Just
Yeah.
don't let them compensate you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Just normal mushrooms.
Those just normal oyster mushrooms, man. Nothing to see here.
Nothing special. Yeah.
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 But the small community is nice.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, so I was basically I was born in Hamilton. And so I had grandparents that homesteaded up Burnt Fork, like
Oh,
in
really?
the mid to late 1800s.
Wow.
And
Just
then
right over
my
there.
other-
Yeah, just
yeah.
Yeah.
And then my other grandparents got a small little ranch, like in the 50s, I think, 50s or 60s, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But so my family was pretty well known in Stevensville,
Yeah.
and it is weird because actually when I was young, then my mom took me to Missoula, and that's pretty much where I was raised, Missoula. But I'd come to Stevensville with my grandparents, gosh, almost probably every other weekend or something like that.
Oh,
I mean, I
awesome.
was always in Stevensville.
Yeah. Different world
So-
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we moved back, about a year, a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
she had a work get together, or it's what was it? Your after work. It was a member appreciation barbecue kind of a
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah.
Clearwater we had
Yeah.
a after hour like member appreciation event,
Yeah.
and
thing.
we
Yeah,
were
so
just
we're
sit
just
down.
sitting there, and I'm eating a sandwich or something, and we're talking. There was some old timer sitting there, and I introduced myself. I'm like Lloyd, and he's like, Lloyd. He goes, what's your dad's name? And I said, Tom. Oh, I know Tom. He helped me out my house, and I've known the family. Blah, blah, blah.
Just a string of stories,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, how's your Uncle
Memories.
Pat doing? And I'm like, pretty good.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, and it is cool, and I think that, you know, if you don't come from a large family or a small community, you don't really know.
No, it's hard to relate,
But
right?
Yeah.
Everybody, I guess it could be unsettling for some people to have everybody in your business, but if you need help, somebody is there to help you. And
Yeah.
that's the part that is like, it's kind of just intuitive. We know that we could find help if we needed it.
Oh, absolutely.
We
yeah.
can call anybody. I mean, we could go down the street or across the street, and if we our neighbor could help us.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
And it's funny too, because growing up in those kind of communities too, sometimes, like especially you come down to visit with a last name and probably looking like your relatives. I remember I've got this old Land Cruiser, still have it. I can't remember what was going on with like a fuel filter or something. So I was trying to limp it home, and my folks live like 10 miles out of town, south of Whitehall, there towards Waterloo and Twin Bridges, and I couldn't make it. I knew it, so like I finally stopped fighting it, and because I was like blowing out the fuel filter or whatever I was doing, it like go a couple of miles and then die again, you know, start for fuel. And so I was just like laying on the hood, like literally like my back against the windshield, my legs out on the hood, and I'm just like staring up at the sky. And I don't remember. I think I walked to someone's house and used their phone or something. I can't remember how. Like I knew my dad and the neighbor were coming with a car hauler, and sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, and I hear a car pull up, but I'm not really paying attention because I'm just like spaced out and just like tired and not really wanting to be on the side of the road anymore.
Yeah, right.
And I hear a guy yell, "Barrett, what are you doing?" And I'm like, and I still don't really know who that was, but like they knew who I was, and I was like, "Oh, just he's hanging out. And he's like, you need anything? I was like, you want me to tell you? I'm like, no. And he even knew where I lived and stuff. And he's like, your dad coming? I'm like, yeah, I'll be here soon. So he's like, oh, tell Keith hey. I was like, sure. And I'm like,
I have no idea who you
I'm
are.
like, I don't know who that person is, but like they knew who I was because growing up there, you know. Yeah. Like he gave me some shit and like left. It was awesome. I was like, man, I have no idea. So I described the track to my dad, and he's like, oh, it sounds like it. I can't remember who he said, but I was like, oh, yeah, it probably was. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that's so cool about that small town stuff, you know, and yeah, I definitely want my kiddos to kind of the same experience, and we'll see kind of where life takes us, but
Yeah.
And like. Another thing cool too is, and I mean, like you guys have seen it here too. Like was it Creamery Days is coming up or
Creamery Picnic,
Creamery Picnic.
Yeah, that's kind of the big event for Steve I in the summer, right?
Yeah, it's a huge event. Yeah,
I think it's the 104th or no 110th.
Yeah, 110.
Oh, wow.
I think it's like 100th and something.
Yeah. Jeez.
So
that's
gonna
be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be really fun back in the day.
Oh,
yeah, well they used to shut the whole main street down.
Yeah.
For days.
Oh, for days?
Yeah,
really?
they used to block it off, and then you'd have
cool.
to go around to get through town.
It was pretty much a drunk fest.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just out in the streets
like
and
street
stuff.
dance and stuff.
Yeah.
It was fun back in the day.
They've kind of toned it down a little bit, just because there's kids and whatnot, but it still is a lot of fun. There's still like a ton of different like live music from local bands and
cool.
food vendors and.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
it's
fun.
pretty cool.
Yeah, small town events are so good. Like every small town has one, and the origin of it for folks who couldn't like picture like a whole town shutting down. But like back in the day, it's like you could shut a whole town down. You could have like a drunk fest in the streets. You're on a horseback or some slow moving truck. Like you don't have to worry about people getting
hit or
ran over.
Yeah,
whatever might happen. Like now it's a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because Whitehall used to be the same way. Like I mean there was kind of highway going through town, so you couldn't really shut that down, know. But like the main offshoot road, I think it was Legion. I think it was called. I hope I'm getting this right for my Whitehall folks. But they'd have a huge stage in the middle. It'd be shut down. You had bars on either side. The one bar burned down. They moved it, so it's in a different building. It's the Mint Bar. But like at the time, it was like you had Borden's, the Mint, Roper's, all in one little corner, and then the other bar, Two-Bit, would have its own little band,
Yeah.
So you could kind of like go around and get a little different variety. And then Three Forks, like their whole main street shuts down for their rodeo that they do.
Yeah.
I think it's like next weekend and Frontier Days the weekend after.
Yeah.
Man, so we, Three Forks is right down the road, and we have a bunch of buddies there. So we go there the weekend before, and then we go to our Frontier Days. And the reason I'm telling this story is because like last time I was there with my wife, Frontier Days, we took my dad's Jeep, took the top off, went downtown,
Yeah.
and we're just like walking around, and I wasn't sure I was gonna recognize anybody. Pretty good turnover since I was in high school, and just started bumping into old teachers and folks I haven't seen forever, and it was just awesome. So cool.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is
fun.
nice.
I love the small town.
Yeah, it is. It's a great
and
thing to
and
be
your
part of.
teachers really care about you like a relative,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was so cool.
Yeah. Even when I go back home, if because my brother's in the military, and so when him and I are in town at the same time, it's like
people know it.
Yeah, and it's like a mini family reunion. Like it's
so cool.
it
People
turns
coming everywhere to come see you guys.
and just say
And her family's pretty much half the state of Iowa.
Oh, really?
I mean, there's hundreds of them.
That's so cool. They're probably calling like, where are they going to be tonight? All right, we're coming over.
And it's usually in my parents' backyard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I have a lot of cousins now and second cousins, and families grow and whatnot. But it's like we never left. Like we bump into people and just everybody's gotten older.
Yeah.
It's so just down to earth and just small. When I went, what was it, 2 years ago?
This last time was last year.
I've only been.
Oh no, it was 2. It was 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
So I was only there for 3 days. It was over Memorial Weekend.
Oh yeah.
She drove with the kids, and I flew.
You got the better deal there. It sounds like. Yeah.
No, I had fun. He just doesn't know it.
Yeah. There you go.
But I showed up, and did I just jerk that out of there?
Oh no, it's good.
You're
You
good.
just kind of turn a little bit. I know that I got these are the old models. I got to get more of these because I got the short cord. I got the expander for the new one.
But I show up and there's cars everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just a huge party in the back. Everyone's playing cornhole and drinking beer and just having a good time.
Yeah.
And then we went fishing, and then I think we went fishing the next day, and then the day after that. So one of my best friends actually lives an hour from
Yeah.
about an hour from her folks.
No
in
way.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and so we hooked up with him, went fishing, and then a lot of her family, my best friend, and then us went down to the Iowa River on the last
Yeah,
day
'cause
and
our-
had a big fish
yeah.
fry on the Iowa River. And I
Really?
told her
Yeah.
dad, I was like, God, I said, dude, this is the most redneck shit I've ever done, but it is awesome.
And that's how I
love
grew
it.
up.
That's
Like,
so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's right
Yeah.
on. We, you know, as my grandpa passed away, the farmland was sold off, and then the rest of the land went into like a family trust, basically.
Oh, nice.
So we still have land in the family, but it's all like river bottom land and then some hill land. And so anytime we go back home, it's like you got to get, because I have fond memories of like sanding for, you know, snapping turtles and eating snapping turtles and fishing and
gnarly things.
yeah,
snapping
catching slippery slags or leopard frogs, as people out in the West call them. But yeah, just running amok
That is so
on the river
awesome.
bottom.
Yeah.
It also
Yeah.
probably made you a little healthier, though. You know, get all that
Oh,
bacteria in your
absolutely.
system and stuff, right?
Yeah, there's kind of like there was a study, I think it was at Iowa State University, where because it is so high agricultural land, the toxins in the water.
There's always that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh.
So it was one of those things that's like, well, am I healthier because of that, or am I at a higher risk of cancer because of it? So,
Yeah.
and we don't really know. We won't know until, you know, generations, like the runoff.
That makes sense, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's kind of, you know, that's been a topic in all the ag country, right? Like you go up by the Coulter Lake and
Yeah.
they're like having these big algae blooms, and they're like,
Yeah.
huh, this is strange. Like,
Yeah, this hasn't happened before. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't like this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take, you know, a genius to figure out, like, the correlation there, and that it's probably not a good thing, you know? Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, but like you said earlier about like keeping your body that homeostasis in check and getting the right mushrooms. I think I was reading like turkey tail and reishi are good for.
Yeah.
And maitake or shiitake, maybe all of them.
Yeah, most mushrooms are really, really good for you. It's just, again, some varieties have, or strains have, like more medicinal properties than we grew turkey tail quite a bit when we first moved to Stevensville, and then we weren't having success with it, so we stopped, and then we're gonna eventually bring it back for like our supplements and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But and
one thing I should mention with a lot of our medicinal stuff too is lion's mane is about the only one you can really eat.
Like
eat that you can make meals out of or supplement things in meals.
And maitake is, and shiitake or shiitake, in traditional like Asian type healing environments, they use those two for a lot of medicinal properties. But the lion's mane is not only delicious, it's freaking delicious, but it's also really highly concentrated on those, you know, those phytochemicals that you need.
Oh yeah.
But some of the hardier ones, the ones that are like really, really good for your body, you do not want to eat turkey tail. It is, I've done it. I've tried cooking it every way I can. It's just, it's like eating bark.
Oh yeah. I never really like thought about it. But it's like I'm trying to think like almost like a burl, but not a burl, but like that grows on the tree, real woody, like
a cock. Yeah.
Like exactly. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yep.
And in Alaska they're calling it something else, but yeah, they're the natives were looking for it when I was up there. I can't remember what they were calling it there, like a conch or something.
Yeah, conch. Yeah.
Reishi's a lot like that too. It's real woody.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So you can't really, I guess you can't really eat that one either. Then, huh?
No, and it's best. I mean, you can eat it in like a powder form if you like stick it on popcorn or put it in, or put it in like broth or tea.
Oh yeah.
It's used a lot with tea. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's presented in tea form.
Oh.
And
seems like Chinese has like a lot of like brothy tea kind of stuff for their medicines.
Yep, absolutely.
Makes sense. You know, clears the sinuses as it's going in and stuff.
Yeah. And there's that huge, you know, traditional medicine that has been lost through generations that we're trying to bring back, and not only just Asian, but you know, Native American cultures too. That I think we need to start listening a little bit more, because they definitely know more than what we think they do.
Absolutely,
and embracing those cultures, not stealing or trying to manipulate the culture, because I think as, you know, we adapt those healing properties, we need to also honor their tradition and the way that they're presented because they're presented in a certain way.
Yeah. Sometimes part of a ceremony or something.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing with like tangent, but the English, when the certain teacups they use, and this has just been recently like researched with the molecular structure of water. So the way that teacups are shaped, and you turn it, and in I think English culture, and I could be completely off by this, but they go a couple stirs one direction, a couple stirs the other direction, and it actually creates a vortex, and it oxygenizes the coffee or the tea or whatever they're drinking.
Yeah.
And it's like it literally changes the molecular structure of the liquid.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're finding like these traditional things that we don't really take into consideration. There's a meaning or there's a reason why we do it. We just have lost that connection.
Yeah, and it makes sense how it could happen, because if it isn't really passed down, if it's more like a muscle memory thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people might be doing it and they might not even know why. And then like you said, do into some research, it makes sense. Oxygenate, because you kind of get the vortex going one way and then you get it the other way, and
it stirs things
it up more. Yeah,
yeah.
Totally. Kind of gets like it's almost like flipping it, going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Man, exposing more to it.
Yeah.
So, are you guys gonna do like a supplement brand or?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
cool.
definitely.
We've got a lot of things.
A lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah. A lot of things on paper that we're gonna be, once we get this set up and running.
Cool.
We're going to be really diving into a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse or give away any secrets here. So
I tell anybody that asks, it's like, and that's kind of what I'm geared. Because now there's a lot of people that don't like the taste of mushrooms. They don't like the texture of mushrooms. They don't like, preparing mushrooms.
Yeah.
But everybody needs to be ingesting mushrooms. You need that nutrients in your body, because they're a piggyback type plant-based too, or fungal based, so anything that you pair it with, your body's going to absorb better.
Oh yeah.
So if you're eating and sprinkling on just enough on a mushroom powder, on your steak, or seasoning salt, I mean, there's a whole nother like brand line that we're gonna be doing.
That'd be awesome.
It's in our like 5-year plan for sure, but the supplements is the first.
Yeah, that's a big one. And we've also even kind of started dabbling a little bit into mushroom jerky.
And dried mushrooms.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd be into all, especially like you said with hunting and stuff. Regular jerky's good, but it'd be nice to have something a little different, like even something that might give you a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
And one good thing about it too is, so when we sell our mushrooms, they are as fresh as we can get them. They're normally harvested a day or two before we deliver them.
Yeah.
But if we can't, then we will take those and dry them.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to minimize our waste, because it's either grade A to our customers or it's waste for the most part.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find different avenues for our waste to go.
Man, that's a good idea. Yeah. Jeez, that's smart. That's smart business and good, because like people like me, and I know a lot of people in the community, like you said, that who maybe don't want to cook them up, or I like the flavor of mushrooms, so I'll throw like the maitake and all that into oyster mushrooms, right? Because those are those are ones you can get and cook.
Yeah.
I'm get off the rails here with my knowledge.
You're good.
But like I've seen with the Laird coffee creamer stuff that I always throw in my coffee, and then to support local and get something that's even maybe a little more, well, it probably is more fresh, because the Laird Supplements is a big company, and to get it from wherever he gets it in his warehouse or wherever to store to me, it's a bit of a process, so me get you guys growing mushrooms, making the mushrooms, and me come and get them, like, it could be like within a week span or something, or even if it's a little longer, it's still not that long, And
we've had a lot of people asking us, about supplements. Are these? Do you have any dried lion's mane or any powdered lion's mane? And we're like, not now, but
not yet,
yeah.
Down the road. Because some people just they don't like the taste of mushrooms, or they don't know how to cook mushrooms, or they just don't have the time really to cook a whole lot, but they like the benefits of them.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Like you were saying, Sarah, like it's really the benefits. There's no reason for people not to be doing it. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think just tying back to that nutrition part, it's really, really important for us to really start taking our health more seriously.
Yeah, and if you guys have like whatever route you guys end up going, I just like thinking of some ideas in my head, but like a jar, you can come bring your jar and get like some powder from you guys.
Absolutely.
or whatever it might be, and that's super easy. Throw it in your tea or coffee, like you could double down on the day, like if you're a coffee drinker, have a little bit in your coffee, and that night wind down with the tea and throw in some mushroom, and maybe switch up your mushroom, lion's mane in the morning and something at night, turkey tail, wherever it might be,
Yeah, and that's I also want to really gear toward, because kids, kids are finicky.
Yeah,
and it's really hard to get kids to eat vegetables. And even ours, like, we have one kiddo that's like all gung-ho. She loves mushrooms, any form. She loves them.
That's awesome.
The other three, they can, no. And they always ask, are there mushrooms in here? And it's like, well, I don't know if there are.
Yeah, that's the best answer, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, making like even like a fruit-based tea with, mushrooms in it, and like, rose hip and some of the herbs that you need to help, kids' immunosystems, because that's the main focus. And the way that we need to start realizing what nutrition is we're supporting our immune system, because our immune system is the meat and bones of, and that is everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's keeping us alive, is our immune system. And if we don't give it what it needs, we not only get sick, but then we have chronic diseases, and
really affects our whole life.
Yeah, the quality of life. And that's what we're all after. We're after a good quality of life.
100%. Yeah. Well, like a couple years ago, they were calling, it might have been like 10 years ago, they were like, oh, we found out that, like your gut is, the gut, the gut and brain are, intertwined.
Gut brain connection.
Gut brain connection. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Need more lines being out. I think it's even more important than that, especially with being someone who has Crohn's and autoimmune inflammation. Like, if my gut's off, it's my brain's off. Like,
absolutely.
They're definitely one and the same. And the two brain series, like, they're almost like separate, and they can independently operate, but it's not the case. Like, your brain, but like your gut is affecting the way your brain operates, and
absolutely,
if you're not getting the right fuel, and you're getting put inflammation in your system, and not helping out, like you're saying with the mushrooms and tying everything together in like a tea, and basil and all those good things, and like it really affects you, like it affects me, So gut health is important.
Is very, very important, and very overlooked.
Yeah.
And chronic inflammation is also something that we don't realize, that we're constantly inflaming ourselves with, food dyes and highly processed foods and
stress and not getting enough sleep.
Yeah. And and the sleep part is a huge, it's just crazy how we know so much about our bodies and how it functions, and yet we're constantly making these discoveries of how nutrition plays in with it, and plant-based and meat-based, or if you're vegetarian and vegan, there's a mushroom where you can still enjoy that kind of environment of enjoying a steak, but it's not a steak. Lion's mane is really good, and there's a lot
they're
of
actually making like lion's mane steaks.
Oh, really?
Like marinating them, and then you
get like similar texture too, right?
Yeah, like that meatier texture. And lion's mane is really known for its it's like crab-like quality. So like people are making crab cakes, and
that'd be awesome.
like really good meat alternatives. So whether if you're a meat eater or not, you can still appreciate a good mushroom.
Yeah, it's very universal in that way. That's a really good point.
But they're really good on fresh elk steak.
That's probably the best.
With some onions.
And
some potatoes.
That was one of the best meals this past hunting season when my buddy from Iowa was here, and we went hunting together, and each killed an elk and brought it back and cut it up, and took it inside, cooked it.
Fresh.
And then with fresh mushrooms on top.
Man.
He was like,
amazing.
this is so good.
It's amazing. Well, that's like, maybe I'm putting stuff that you guys are already thinking about. Like, I was almost thinking like a cookbook or like a suggestion book of like you were talking, like sprinkle some on the popcorn, some fresh lion's mane on the steak. Like, those are great ideas, So like, for me, I guess I'd be interested in like a little tip book, or even just like a semi cookbook / tip book, like suggestions.
Yeah, we've thought about that, especially like when we go to the markets and stuff. People are like, "How do I cook this?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, the basic way to cook it is saute.
Saute with a good amount of fat, because the other thing that we need to start educating ourselves is how vitamins and nutrients are delivered to our bodies, whether they're water soluble or fat soluble. And most of the nutrients in mushrooms are fat soluble, so you should be cooking them in some kind of fat, whether it's butter, olive oil. Stay away from vegetable oil and kernel oil, because that's terrible stuff.
I know.
But your good healthy fats, you're just giving that meal another boost of nutrients.
That's a really good point. Because I found out during the pandemic, I think it was that vitamin D was fat soluble as well. So and make sure I was taking enough of that, and how little that we have. So like you're talking with the mushrooms, especially in the winter, like you're saying before. Just to circle back on that, like so important.
It is, yeah.
Like up here in the northern hemisphere, even in the summer, it sounds like we're not quite getting enough vitamin D. You know, so in the winter we're definitely, especially this last winter. Man, it was overcast the whole winter.
Yeah, it was a really long, rough winter.
Yeah.
It really was, and it.
And I'm a winter person. I was like, geez. Like I feel like I didn't really have to shovel that much, but it just was like really cold.
It was really cold, and it for whatever reason, it felt so long. And then we had like a glimpse of spring. It was like, oh, spring's here, yay! And then it was like, psych, guess what? It's gonna be -2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we had a period of, in the low 20s for, gosh, it felt like forever.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, and fall kind of the same way. Like I remember Halloween being warm, and then like I went hunting that last week in last week in November. The last week of hunting season. Yeah. And man, you remember how cold it was? Like I got super sick.
Yeah, he was out.
Yeah, I hunted. So I primarily bow hunt.
Oh yeah.
And so
that's the way to go.
I was in a tree a lot of November.
Yeah.
And it was actually my left foot, my toes are still tingly from.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think I did something.
A little bit of damage there.
Yeah.
Because it was just everything I did. It just I can maybe last till about 11, 12 o'clock, and it's when you can't feel your feet or nothing like that. It's time to go.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, like I mean, we're gonna go sit in a duck blind not too far from here, and my brother-in-law had just moved out and went back to get his stuff back to the Midwest, and I think just decoys and a few things, and. Like we had this big plan, and it was like around that same like cold stretch, and all the water around here in the valley was just froze over, all the open spots to hunt. It's like, okay, well I guess we're just gonna go hunt some elk and deer, and then it was so cold you didn't even really want to be out doing that, because like you said, I mean it was like 2 degrees the one day we were gonna go, and it was almost fortunate that we both got sick, so we didn't end up not making it, but big plans this year for all of it,
it was incredibly cold, and early it was like, oh my gosh.
Oh. That reminds me, I was going to say something, and I almost forgot, but the hyperbaric chambers, have you guys heard anything about these?
Yeah.
I've been hearing a ton about them, so it might help your foot.
Yeah.
It's supposed to help with like stroke patients and stuff.
Yeah.
For recovery. And something else I just found out, like it's crazy all the stuff on hyperbaric chambers.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things about them.
There's, all that is, again, and it's a whole going back to like traditional medicine and like things that we don't think that are gonna help, and then we give them a try and they really help our bodies.
Yeah. It's like also wow.
Yeah, and the sauna booths, in-home sauna booths now you can get. Like sweating is so incredibly important for our bodies to detox.
Yeah, I bet you if you trace it back, almost every culture has had some kind of sweat thing.
They absolutely have.
Yeah, Norwegians have saunas. Native Americans with their sweat lodges and stuff. I bet every culture's had some kind of sweat operation going at one point, you know. And then we got, like you said, we just got busy and lost it. And fortunately, I got one like before the pandemic got bananas. So
nice.
Really unfortunate to have a home sauna.
Yeah,
and it's helped out so much though. Like I had some surgery and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds. I had this weird tumor removed, and so I was laid up for a couple months. And only I could do was go in the sauna. But like after I could healed up and I could actually be active, and I think it was actually during hunting season, like right at the beginning. So like I went out for the end of hunting season and was able to hike around. I wasn't getting around great. Like wasn't able to sneak up on anything, or I wasn't really trying to get anything because I didn't know if I'd be able to pack it out. But I was still able to get out there and do stuff. And cardio wise, I was okay because of the sauna. Strength wise, I was a little lacking, but cardio was okay though. I wasn't like just wheezing out there. Just getting my heart rate in the sauna every night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys have work tonight? Do you guys have more stuff to do?
No,
we just have kids.
I know. I was just thinking
they're asleep.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I was thinking about getting home to my kiddo too and the family, so I didn't want to keep you guys, or if you had work. I mean, geez, schedule. But man, I mean, like thank you guys so much for taking the time, and I get so much energy from you folks and like a bunch of folks that I've had on and talked to. Like even here in town, I think like Sourdough was carrying some of your stuff, right? Yeah. So I ran into Ashley one day.
Ashley and Jay are they're wonderful.
Yeah.
They're humans. They're just good humans.
Yeah. So like talking like that community you mentioned earlier, I mean like we're building it here. It feels like.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean more you guys. I'm just kind of floating around with this Airstream, but
No, hey, this is great. This is great.
Trying to get involved, but like talking to you guys, like it's man, and like the folks at Eternal Bloom and stuff too.
Yeah,
like,
they're great. Too.
Yeah. So man, it's just been so cool. Like I get just fired up, like, man, you guys are doing stuff, I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, we're all doing stuff, and we're making it better. That's the big part, is we're making our community better.
Totally.
And more connected, which is important.
And talking more, like, even if, like, we're not 100% right on everything we're saying on this podcast, which I think given the information we have now, as accurate as we can be, you know, and it's going to make people think, right? Like I remember someone telling me a long time ago, like it doesn't really matter so much as like the facts, as long as they're having the conversation, because then your mind's open to something, right? You're thinking and you're, you know, you're doing your own thinking on something and processing.
We need to think more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Individual thought, right?
Yeah. We need to just think and not be persuaded.
Yeah.
Or offended.
Or offended.
That's it. We need to be open. I think having a mutual conversation that is rooted in respect, whether you agree or not, and you come out of a conversation and either you're more ingrained in your thought or you're more open, that's good.
Yeah.
But you got to do it respectfully, and you got to do it with kindness and like,
Yeah, and coming in kind of humble, you know, like, so I notice if I'm not humble, like I get humbled, like there's
really fast.
Yeah, really fast. You know, like,
I
listened to this one, I was going to do a podcast for the Forest Service, and so I listened to this one podcast that exists on the Custer Gallatin, and this gal named Liz Townley, and she's awesome. And I just listened to the very first like clip, and it was a small little clip, and the very first one, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, you know. Like I'm thinking, I think mine's probably a little better, is what I thought, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got to talk to her. We had a meeting, amazing, like the huge brain, just awesome person, you know. Like I was just impressed right away, and so nice. And she's like, hey, if you want to recommend this podcast episode for you. And it was not even the one that I looked at. The one I looked at was Your Forester Future, a clip from like that. But there's actually like a separate main podcast called Outlandish, and it was a hyphen in between Outland and Ish, I think is how it looks up.
Oh,
so it took me a while to find it.
Yeah.
And it was like what you might find in glaciers.
Oh.
And it is incredible. Like I was like, this is insane. Blew my doors off, and I was like, that is 1,000 times better than my operation, you know. But like the initial, like just being ignorant, I listened to the first episode, and the first episode for anything from anybody pretty much is bad, right? Like you're bad at something at first. Yeah. So like, but me being dumb and ignorant, like I don't think anything of it. I'm like, oh, she's okay, you know. Like I just want to hear like kind of how she got it going, and not like I wasn't thinking about like you know, how maybe like I should be picking her brain on her podcast itself, and like you know, how she became such a good host and all these things. So I was thinking like, oh, we're kind of doing the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
But then like listening to other podcasts, like it was amazing. Like it was so much better than mine. I was like, this is unreal. Like just like her delivery, and that she had breaks and like the kind of back and forth of it and all, and is just awesome. Yeah, the flow was amazing. So just being a little more humble, and you know, it's a constant battle is what I'm trying to say with me.
I think it's a constant battle for everybody.
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody doing something better than you.
Yeah, totally. And then like being humble enough to be like, yeah, that's better than mine. And if you have the time, I'd love to pick your brain on this and figure out how I can improve my thing a little bit, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and I don't really listen to many podcasts besides the ones I listened before, because I'm always scared I'm going to like take away from like someone else's.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure from a creative standpoint, and like Mike's a photographer too, and then
I
also
we didn't mention that.
and I metalsmith too.
Oh really?
Which I haven't done in a year and a half because we've been so busy with getting this going. So there's that creative side that we have, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like if you follow too many people on Instagram, your style starts to become like everybody else's style.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and that's the dangerous game, because then you just kind of get, you know, put into the masses. So
yeah, totally. I want this to be my original thing, and I don't want to take from anybody else either on accident. Like even if it's just accident, like because there's a few other, you know, fire related outdoorsy podcasts out there, and like Hot Shot Wake Up and Anchor Point, or two of them that are big, and I think they're really good. But I don't listen to them, and I don't really want to yet until I know I'm for sure gonna stick with this. You know, and I'll change it as I grow with it.
Evolve.
Evolve. Yeah. But I want to like evolve into the Anchor Point podcast on accident, because it's like I'm listening to it all the time. All of a sudden, like maybe I end up talking like him, you know, or something, and I'm not even aware of it. Also, like I'm a mirror. All of a sudden I'm a mirror podcast on accident, you know. So I'm like, which sucks, because I want to be like supportive, but I'm also like I know I kind of know myself, and I know I want to like make sure I'm got this more figured out before I start listening to other people's, you know, that are in the similar field, I guess, you know.
Like she handed, like with I do that. Used to do that a lot with my photography and stuff like that, because there were some people that I'd follow, and it's like I have a certain look about my photos or my videos and stuff that I'd put together, and it's like I'd follow some photographers. It's like, oh gosh, that's almost looking too much like his. So
I can see that happening easy in photography.
Yeah.
Because you know, like I took an awesome photography class in college. Did not expect it, but a professional photographer just had this great talent. God, I wish I could do her some justice, remember her name. She was amazing, and she taught us like all the basics of like a normal camera to a digital camera and all the stuff that we'd be kind of using, and like showed us all her professional awesome shots, and would have us go out and challenge us to different kind of like shots that we'd go out and do, like nighttime and daytime, and like more like geometrical, like I can't remember exactly, but it had to have like a parallel line and a perpendicular line or something
your
like
thirds,
it.
your rule of thirds.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. Jeez, man, I'm butchering this. I'm so glad you got that.
Yeah.
That was a really bad description that you were able to pick up. I appreciate that. And so yeah, stuff like that, right? Like that people don't really think about, but it ingrained something in me too, where like I think I take a pretty good photo, more just because that, like you were talking too, like all these like things that you learn along the way that you that's kind of in the back here and just comes out every once in a while, you know. But I could definitely see, just for my own self, like looking at other people's photos, being like doing what they're doing, you know. And I like the way I take photos, so I don't really want to, you know, take someone else's, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, so do you do professional photography right now, or is that on the back burner too?
I used to. So one of the businesses I started was a small production company.
Oh, really?
It was called 41 Digital.
Oh.
And so I did photography and videography, edited all that. And I started that right before COVID hit.
Oh.
So that really just hammered it.
Jeez,
And it was starting to go, because I worked a lot with a lot of outdoor companies.
Oh, really?
And did a lot of their photography, put together some commercials for them and stuff for TV and
dang, man.
For a lot of social media and stuff like that. So I did that for a while. And then I did that, and then I also, this is going to kind of get long, and I don't want it to, but
no, go ahead.
So I was doing that, and then I was also, I helped start another archery company.
Oh, really?
And so I was traveling and still working full-time at Roseburg, but I was traveling all over the country.
Oh, geez.
I was doing trade shows. I was doing archery shoots, because I was also a tournament archer.
Oh, wow.
Kind of at the same time. I was doing a lot of stuff.
Man, yeah, you're busy.
And so
both you guys.
I was kind of getting tired of traveling all over, so I just wanted to just stay close to home.
Yeah.
And I was kind of getting tired of the outdoor industry. Pretty cutthroat.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to just step away from that a little bit. So I started a small production company in Missoula. And I was just starting to get going, and then COVID hit. So with that, of course, everyone's going to cancel pretty much all their marketing budget is just out the window, all that. And so,
dang, man.
Yeah, so that kind of went on the back burner a little bit, and then I had to get a real job.
Yeah.
So I worked at Home Depot for like a year or so, and then I became a marketing manager.
Oh,
and
awesome.
so, I do a lot of his videos, a lot of real estate. I do a lot of real estate photo shoots, drone work. I'm also a drone pilot.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because we were talking about it when we first started talking on Instagram, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that real estate stuff is big, man. That makes or break. Not really so much the sale, but just getting the people there, right?
Yeah.
I know it's like my brother's actually going through trying to sell his place over by Townsend right now, and I think they were just like kind of quick taking on a camera phone or something, you know, photos. So you look, and you look in the surrounding area, and look at the pro photos that are like used with the drone or just a professional camera, and it's like, man, it's really selling that house. And my pro brother's house is not doing it justice, you know.
Yeah.
It used to, and it still does. It really pisses me off when I look at, because I actually go through the MLS listing for the bidder every day.
Oh, really?
And I check Florence, Stevensville, Victor, Corvallis, and sometimes Hamilton.
Yeah.
Just because I have a thing with real estate too. And it pisses me off when I see a real estate agent, go and do photos with their phone, because when they sell that home, they're going to get a pretty decent commission.
Oh.
And to just go in there for the client and take a photo with their phone, it pisses me off.
Yeah, it's the cutting corners, like.
Yeah.
And especially through COVID, when I first started, you didn't even hardly need to take a photo to sell a house.
Oh, I bet, man.
Because there was such a bidding war going on for houses and stuff like that. They were actually selling for more than what they were asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
and
so
for
a while.
A lot of agents were getting cheap that way and getting lazy. And so they weren't taking professional photos. And it pissed me off, because the client, granted, they're going to probably sell their house, but you need to do what you need to do to really sell this house and really give everything you can to the client.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think especially if you're really like harnessing a view from a good photo, that's at least when I was looking, that's what I'd be looking for. Like, oh yeah, look for the view off the porch here, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like was in that
Yeah.
listing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
versus like a couple like 360, shots from a camera phone. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been doing a lot of real estate photography and stuff now.
Oh,
Working as a
nice.
marketing manager.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit before, and then once I became the marketing manager, yeah, that's pretty much any house we get, I'll go and shoot it.
Oh, awesome. That's probably takes a little bit of time doing that, huh?
Yeah, I'm getting more efficient at it.
Oh, I
As
bet.
far as the thing that actually really takes the most time is the computers that I use, because I have one at an office in Missoula and then mine now.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the editing programs like Adobe,
Yeah.
they keep
Updating it.
updating it, and they get bigger and they get
Yeah.
bigger and bigger, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so I got to add more memory to my computer. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Well, that's what's killing me. I got like the base laptop from like 2018 or 19, the Mac, whatever the little one was.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine for like iMovie stuff, or even like this Hero 4. But I got like my wife got me the newest GoPro last year for Christmas or something.
Oh yeah.
And like those files, even as I trim them down, like basic, because you can add like the stabilization, all these other little
Yeah.
bells and whistles, and
Mhm,
makes the
yeah.
file bigger. So I like got it down to just basic like 1080 whatever footage. And it's still like iMovie like has a hard time. Well, my computer has a hard time processing through iMovie, and it gets hot and stuff. And like so I
Yeah.
know it's stuff in my computer. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah.
So I'm still using the old GoPro until I can upgrade.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want to really get away from iMovie because, like you said, you get like something like Adobe, or was it Final Cut?
Yeah, Final
Yeah,
Cut Pro.
Final
Final Cut
yeah.
Pro,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
The updates in Final Cut Pro itself is probably like a pretty big file, and
Mhm.
man, it takes up so much space. So
Yeah, whenever I run video through mine, so Premiere Pro is Adobe's, and
Oh.
whenever I run any video through that, I have to set it on the lowest quality,
oh yeah,
or it just won't play back.
nuts, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, because like I got this GoPro that's got like I can take an awesome shot, but I just can't do anything with it yet. Well, and then it just eats up the battery too, and,
Yeah.
and the memory, like I go from being able to shoot like a 4-hour video to like a 2-hour video, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, and especially with this, like I want to be able to shoot like for a little over 2 hours now, so I can let you guys go. I feel like I've taken you hostage for a little while here.
No, you're good.
Yeah, but it's I was going somewhere with that. But also, I remember what I was gonna say earlier about my brother-in-law. It came to me a while ago, but there wasn't a good way to loop it in. Was the Biodome movie back in the day, like in the 90s or something?
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
like-
It was Brandon Fraser.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, man, it'd be so cool, like living in a biodome. Like,
Mhm.
have that be like your daily.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
man, something you kind of control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, but like I kind of thought about that with like greenhouses and like like the Eternal Bloom folks and
yeah.
some other folks I know that are like growing in Hilltop Acres. One of my friends who does microgreens, and
Yeah.
it's like, man, that seems like so cool. And like you guys doing the mushrooms, like going in this like really healthy atmosphere that's getting filtered through plants. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Eternal Bloom's like work with permaculture is really inspiring too.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
doing some crazy cool things, and it's great.
Yeah, it is really great. Yeah, I love
Mhm.
like their feed because they'll like talk about something, and like when I had them on, they were talking about like no-till and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting stuff
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But shoot, we can wrap it up there. I'm sure we can do another one if you guys would like. 'Cause I'd love to have you guys on again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
game.
I could probably talk to you guys all night. Do you guys want to blast anything out there for the social medias or anything? Or?
Just I guess a big thank you for everybody that's supported us now and in the future, because as we're growing, we're struggling. We're having struggle times. Like we've missed a couple farmers markets here and there just because we didn't have produce or
Yeah.
mushrooms to bring. But everybody is it's just crazy the amount of support that
Yeah. And patience.
And
people have had
patience.
with us.
It's-
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just overall just excitement for it. So
Yeah,
I'd
I
like
think
to
that-
thank everybody.
I think that might be helping like with the post-COVID a little bit too. Like people are having that more patience. Like, oh, I understand
Yeah.
it takes a process because they've dabbled in something maybe, or
Yeah.
they just realize like good things take time. you know?
Yeah. With with small family farm or small family business, we're not Amazon. We can't just flip stuff over and have it come out. Like
Yeah.
that's not how things work.
No.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if anyone wants to follow along on the process, they can always follow us on Facebook and Instagram at
Mhm.
Swift Current Farms.
Swift Current Farm. Oh, gotcha.
yeah, we'll be posting more now that we have this facility up and running.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard to do anything in that barn. It was so cramped.
I bet. Yeah, I
like
bet.
Mike had a hard time being as tall as he is, just moving around.
Yeah, you are a tall fella, 6'5", 6'7",
6'6".
6'6".
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man, right in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, ballparking it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so.
bet. Yeah, I'm sure. I know we're friends on Instagram, but I'm not sure if I can follow the business. So I'm gonna make sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check that tonight because I'm super interested. As you can tell, I'm definitely gonna be a client.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
I'm into the mushroom life, and man, I'm so excited to see what you guys do forward. I mean, like not only like just seeing the facility today and like the potential you guys have and the things you have in plan,
Yeah.
you know, in the works like supplements and maybe like a little like how to like kind of cookbook thing is
Yeah.
gonna be super cool, especially for me. You know, like learn more things I can do with my mushrooms and
Mhm.
like the popcorn thing stuck in my head. So
Yeah,
I can't even eat popcorn, but you know, like my wife can and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. So,
Mhm.
well, I really appreciate you guys taking time
Yeah,
and
thanks
sitting
so
down
much.
with me.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you.
for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
It was
we'll
a good time.
been
Yeah,
great.
for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely do it again because I could pick your guys' brain all night.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
likewise.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.